Good morning, Merle.
Good morning. My name is Peter Bauman. I'm here for the meeting to represent Central Connecticut Engineering.
Okay, good morning. Soon what we will do, we'll have, when Regent Harris opens the meeting, there will be somewhat of a roll call, and then your institution will be announced per the agenda item. This is Jane Gates speaking. Thank you.
Very good. Good morning to you, Jane.
Good morning.
Hi, Jane. It's Pat. Everything's all set.
Okay, Pat. And then so you're ready to do the roll call and everything, right?
Yeah. How do you say? Is it Maldonado or Maldano?
Yeah. No, she's not. Delete that. She's not a member. So please delete that from the roll call. Her name.
Do I call on Kalena?
Yes.
I got it.
Okay.
So.
All right. Good. So we'll wait for everyone else.
Yes.
But I think everything else is clearly in place.
I do too, finally.
I know it. I mean,
wow.
The 11th hour and missing some of the deadlines coming up from the campuses, so we were able to, at the 11th hour, get all that in there, which is critical given that May is here. So you have an early weekend, Pat.
I do?
You should, given the hours.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. I'm happy here. I'm just happy everything is going okay.
Yeah, everything looks good. It's May. Can you believe it already?
Oh, it doesn't feel like May, but it is.
I know it.
Now I have to finish the academic council, and I'll drop that off to your house tonight. The academic council for Wednesday.
Whatever, it's whatever's convenient for you.
Okay, I will. It is. I'll do that tonight.
Okay. We're flexible.
Hello.
Hello, it's Pat Riz.
Hi, Aviva Butt. How are you?
Aviva, good.
Good.
Good morning, Aviva. This is Jane.
Good. Hi, Jane. Jane, I have a question you may not know, but Merle was going to find out from Ken. On that student first issue, which is towards the end of the action agenda,
yes,
is the proposal with or without the diversity issue because the material is in conflict. The 2 pages on 210 and 216 are totally different statements. One says the CCIC took it out and accepted what the academic committee removed, and the other says that they put it back in. So which is it?
The latter is the correct action. They
took it out.
It was put back in. Correct. Primarily because it does support the Board of Regents goals and objectives, and we all felt, those on the CCIC, that consolidation committee, their college consolidation implementation committee made up of the presidents and different ones, that was really critical. So while I think the initial recommendation from that Students First was one based on logistics of, well, how are we going to do this embedded, but that was not a compelling argument. We felt that we needed that, and I think Daisy DeFilippis was one of the first to speak to it, as well as regional presidents and other presidents, that is really critical. This is not the time to remove a focus on diversity. So it's back in.
Where are the courses that they can select from? Because the list of courses doesn't have a diversity course among the 21 credits.
There are diversity attributes that a list of really what meets a diversity standard. So those courses, the diversity component may be either embedded or a standalone. Some institutions will include it in FYE, others won't, but what we're really focusing on are the learning outcomes. What are the attributes? What are the topics that must be addressed? And if you look in that document, I think it's a note at the bottom where it identifies what those attributes should be as a guideline to ensure that we are meeting that diversity. But that's a good question. I can always depend on you, Regent Bud. Thank you for picking that up. You read every page. I tell everyone, look, you better be ready.
I do read everything.
You read, everything. Yes, you do.
I do.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I spent 40 years reading everything, so it's like a bad habit.
No,
yeah,
I very much appreciate you. Yeah.
But I will tell you, I still don't really understand, and I'll tell you why. I'm trying to flip to that now, to the let's see, what page does it start on? 200 something?
Yeah, because we had so many revisions.
Yeah, no. What you just said is what I'm concerned about. There was a list of courses, in the core, and that's important. There's a list of courses. Now, if the diversity issue is to be embedded in the courses, I can understand that. That I can understand, that when they give these courses, that's important. But I don't see that as part of the resolution. I just don't understand it, because having it embedded is not what the resolution discussion was about. It was about having diversity as a course, as I read it.
Regent Bud, I think your point's legitimate, but because now we're open, we will perhaps just continue our conversation later. Thank you very much in the meeting, during the meeting. Thank you.
Sure. I will. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Well, hello, this is David Levinson calling in.
Good morning. This is Dr. Hassan Shibli from CCSU.
Hi, this is Missy Alexander from Western Connecticut State University.
Pat. Hi, it's Merle Harris.
Merle. Hi, Merle.
Okay,
Hi,
I'm
Merle.
in.
Good. Can't start without you.
Are we missing board members still?
Should I take a roll call when it starts? Aviva's
Yes,
on?
yeah,
Okay, I'll do that.
yep. No, yeah, when it starts, I just wanted to know when we're ready to start, or if we have everyone in.
Just Aviva and you so far.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
We still have 4 minutes.
Got it.
Oh, that's true.
Hello, Eric, it's Elsa.
Oh, hello, Elsa.
Hello, Elsa.
Hi, everybody.
I'll put it on mute.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Elsa.
everybody.
Hello, this is Mike Stefanowicz joining.
Hi, Mike.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Marianne Fallon from Central.
Hi, Marianne.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. This is Ben Barnes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ben.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Karen Zina Birch, College of Technology in Tunxis.
Hi, Dr. Karen.
Good morning.
How's everybody
Morning.
doing? Good, I hope.
Good morning. Good morning. It's Amy Fest from Tunxis.
Hi, Amy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Merle, I'm just not sure about Regent Howery, Cohen, or Sensenker.
Okay, as soon as Cohen or Howery gets on, we can start because we'll have a quorum.
Sounds good. Regent Howery, have you joined? Regent Cohen, have you joined? Oh, not yet. Regent Howery, have you joined? Regent Cohen, have you joined?
This is Jacob Spute from QVCC.
Hi, Jacob.
Hello, John Lewis from QVCC joining.
Hi, John.
Good morning. Joan Clark from QVCC joining.
Hi, this is Dr. Al-Masoud from Central Connecticut State University, Chair of Engineering.
Regent Cohen, are you on?
This is Q Kim.
Yes, I am.
Oh, great.
Okay, then we have a quorum, so we will start in 1 minute. We'll just give 1 more minute for Regent Howery.
Regent Howery, have you joined?
Okay, I think I will call the meeting to order though, because we have as everyone knows, a very large agenda. So we will start. I want to note that there have been some changes as we moved along. There was a revision to the agenda on the 29th that included a couple of items that were not on the beginning of the agenda, particularly the general ed core for the single community college. It was on the agenda, but the background information didn't get included. And the other item was the first item, which has to deal with the guidelines for approved new programs for when they start. And that actually was discussed at the last board meeting, but it is before us today for actual approval. And the item in detail was not on the final agenda, so that was sent yesterday. It was posted actually this morning, so those of you who are at home and don't have it can go on to the posting and find it. And I'm not exactly sure how you do that, but you probably know more than I do. I want to thank everyone for their hard work and their patience. You certainly can work from home, but it certainly isn't the same. I have found that out too the hard way. And everyone has done a fantastic job in getting the work done and on the campuses for working at the same time to make sure that students continue their education. So it's deeply appreciated by all the regions. The first thing I'm going to do is ask for approval of the minutes of April 3rd, 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved. I so moved.
Okay,
okay,
so it was moved.
I think Howie, Regent Howie's on. Is she on?
Okay.
I am on, thank you.
That's
okay.
Okay, good.
When you move or second a motion, give your name because sometimes it's difficult for Pat to know exactly who's saying it. So it's moved by Regent Budd and second by Regent Howery. We didn't actually take a roll call, which I should have done because it's not certain who's here. I think we know that for the four regents are. Kalina, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, our SAC. Oh, good. And is our student rep on?
No.
No. Okay. So we'll wait and see if she does join us. I was told. Okay. All right. So we have. Hello. Okay. So we have a motion to approve the minutes. Are there any changes or amendments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? It passes. Okay, the motion passes. Before we start the meeting, I have asked Ben Barnes to join us just for a few minutes, and I've done that because there are constantly questions on the budget submissions for new programs and for programs that are coming forward for accreditation. So he's working on making some changes to that, but I thought it would be useful if we just took a minute or two and if regents could indicate what some of their concerns and issues are to give some guidance to this process. And I appreciate Ben being here. I know he has a finance committee meeting in 10 minutes because they had a complication yesterday. And so, Ben, you're on, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Aviva, or yes, thank you. Aviva or Holly or Naomi, or do you have any? Or Kalina, do you have anything you want to kind of express where your issues are?
Yeah, I can. This is Aviva, but my concern is that when we show the revenue, we show the total revenue college is receiving from a student that's enrolled in a particular program, even though the program itself is only part of that student's curriculum. So the revenue is representing a broader area of coursework, and the expenses are only for the particular coursework that we are approving, not course in particular, but a program. In other words, you're changing mechanical engineering to do this or that and to add something, and we add one professor and we show that expense, and we saw an allocation of administrative of other courses for the additional course, but then the revenue represents a lot of other courses and those expenses aren't shown. So I think it's somewhat a misrepresentation that adding the course or the curricula that we're looking at without showing the total expenses, we show more revenue than the expenses would reflect. That's it.
Yeah, this is Ben. I certainly have observed that. I think the same thing is happening on the expenditure side as well, however, where the full cost of the professor is shown, even though the professor may in fact have other, be teaching other courses as well. If it's a full-time faculty member, I guess if it's an adjunct, it would be limited to that particular coursework. But I do think that we need to be very careful about considering the marginal revenue that will result from increasing expanding the course offerings compared to the marginal expenses that would be incurred as a result of that decision. So I certainly take your point. I think it's we need to be very careful about identifying the cost and revenue and cost implications from the decision to make the change, which I think is much smaller than the total revenue of those students or the full cost of that of a full-time faculty member.
Okay, well, we'll leave it to you to think about the best way of showing that. The other, yeah, I know, it's very difficult. The other concern I have then, though, is when we're talking about revenue, when we talk about tuition, I'm never sure if we're including tuition and fees in there or just tuition, so I think we always need to have some type of a footnote, what the total cost is, because if it's just tuition, then the fees would cover some of the other costs, so I can understand why we might not list them as expenditures. But if tuition and fees are being used, then the other costs are included in the revenue side. So I think we have to be clear what goes in that box, tuition and fees, just tuition. Probably just tuition is more realistic because it would be on the expenditure side, but I'm not sure. I leave it to you to make that decision, but I think it needs to be clear what that cost per student is in that particular institution.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand that. I don't claim that I have identified a solution to that yet, but I'm very interested to hear you express your concerns about the current method.
Okay. Anyone else have any issues or other issues?
Hi, Merle. Good morning. It's Holly. One other quick question. Good morning,
Just
Ben.
one thing. I think one thing, Holly. I think everyone has to go on. Make sure they're on mute. Who has other than the people that are talking? Thank you. Okay, Holly.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Good morning, Ben. So my concern when hearing about the programs was to make sure that we clearly delineate the difference between expenses that will come if we hit a certain number of students or, that are phased in. For example, if we need to hire an administrator for the program, do we have to hire that administrator regardless of any students apply for the program? Or is it something that when we hit a threshold where it financially makes sense, we hire the person? So that was my other concern, is I didn't want to commit to having to hire people for a program that we may not be able to predict whether or not we can fill based on the current circumstances. So that was my only other issue is, it sounded like some of the programs were certainly incremental where some of those larger expenses would hit after a certain number of students, but that's always my concern too is are we hiring, full-time people for these roles when we don't
Hello?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
You got cut off, Holly. I think the gist of what she said was completed for me. I certainly agree with that. I also think that we have a number of approaches that we've used in the colleges in particular around using educational assistants and part-time durational employees for filling some of those needs so that we have more flexibility to hire a part-time person and expand their hours if the duties grow. So I think we can be very clear about how to use the human resources tools that we have available to us to match the needs of a new program, because I don't always think it makes. I think you're exactly right. It doesn't make sense to hire a full-time person before the program is established and successful and rising to the level of demand that ultimately we hope it will.
Yeah,
Ben, that's a good point. Can you hire a durational employee, say to a faculty member, and then have it in the contract? It could convert to a tenured position if the enrollment warrants it. Is that possible?
I don't know. Honestly, I have to tell you that my experience with the faculty collective bargaining agreements is limited, and I don't want to speak.
I'm going to just mute myself so I can just hear that.
Only enough to get in trouble if I try to characterize its terms.
Okay.
But I believe that we certainly do have the ability to hire, part-time administrative staff. So an educational, an EA could be hired for for an academic year to work whatever it is, 15 hours a week, and then that could be adapted as necessary. And I suspect that there are approaches that we could take to do a similar scaling up of effort with faculty. Particularly, I would recommend, generally speaking, if you have a new program that you have, uncertainty about the, level of interest from students or the, whatever. There are features of it that you don't know yet because you haven't run it. That using adjunct faculty as a starting place makes some sense, and may make some sense in some circumstances. And I'm not saying that that's ultimately how you would necessarily staff things, but I would generally favor hiring full-time faculty to fill established roles that we have a great deal of confidence will be ongoing services. Based on their area of teaching.
Other comments, questions?
Good morning, Ben. It's Naomi, and thank you. I know you're in a time constraint. Do you have any just overarching info that you could give us about what we're seeing in the system regarding enrollments in general?
Oh, I wish I knew. We have seen in the community colleges some positive signs. There's some anecdotal indications that there are strong expressions of interest for fall enrollments, which have come earlier, suggesting that maybe students, community college students tend to enroll late, but having some strong early related to the PACT program, which I think continues to be of interest to a lot of families who are looking for a cost-effective alternative for the fall. So I think there are a lot of reasons for optimism and a little bit of anecdotal evidence early on to support that in the area of the colleges. But again, who knows? A lot could happen between now and September. In the universities, the enrollment, the early indications are mixed. There are a little, the number of freshman commitments at some of these normally are this time of year. It's very hard to know, though, whether that is going to reflect the ultimate enrollment levels or if it's simply because students and their families are deferring making decisions given the, I've joked with my family and my colleagues that, I don't make any predictions about what's happening tomorrow, much less what's happening in a month, given the uncertainty we all face. So that may be reflected in sort of a movement toward later enrollment at the universities So it's very unclear. The national there was a national survey that I saw it was an article that described several survey research projects of prospective students and current students, and those suggested at a worst case that some four-year institutions might see a drop-off of 20% of enrollment as a result of the pandemic and the various responses and social and economic dislocation that has flowed from that. I hope that those are misguided and wrong, and that we will see a different result. But the other issue that I think makes it very difficult to rely on those national evaluations is that each college has a very different role in a very complex marketplace. So, I would fully expect to see, elite universities, the Harvards and Yales and Stanfords of the world, probably able to fill their classes because people very much want to take the opportunity, don't want to miss the opportunity to get in. I think there's some concern that the following year would be even more difficult to get in if things return to normal a year later. On the other hand, state regional 4 years, like the universities in our system, it's not quite clear what their role, how they will fare in this environment. I think the sector that is most concerned are the high cost, low endowment liberal arts schools that have high tuition rates, not so high levels of discounting, and that's a group of colleges that's been in trouble over the last decade anyways, and there's every reason to think that this will probably exacerbate their woes. But it remains to be seen whether the universities will be a place where a lot of people, state universities will be a welcome alternative for folks. That certainly is my hope, and I know that the universities are working very hard to position themselves to be successful in a very tough market and environment.
Thank you.
I said nothing. I apologize for saying nothing.
No. That's what we're all saying, I think. Regent Cohen, is that satisfactory?
It's never satisfactory. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
No, it's my pleasure.
Any other comments, questions before we let Ben Barnes go to his next meeting? Thank you.
Hopefully
Thank you, Ben. I know that you're squeezing. Okay. And yes, I hope so. And when do you think you might have a budget format ready?
We're anticipating a budget at the end of May. Beginning of June, okay. We're expecting responses back from the institutions on May 15th.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
Okay, take care. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye. Okay, the first item on the agenda, we've talked about that just now a little bit with Ben, but Provost Gates has done some research about student enrollment in hard times, and she shared some of that, or she wants to share some of that with us today. So I'm going to turn this over to her for a quick overview of the research she has done, and she has shared some of this with board members. I want everyone to hear the same thing. So Provost Gates.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair Harris, for the opportunity to share historical perspective here on how institutions of higher education have responded to financial resilience in economic downturns. One of the things I did was went back to look at what has happened in other states. And if we look at the most depressed times, starting first with the Great Depression, we find evidence that enrollment in higher education is countercyclical. It's countercyclical to the market, meaning that the demand for educational services really increased during the economic downturn. during the Great Depression, for example, a case study looked at Penn State University. They thought, oh, we're going to have to close our doors, but then faculty groups and college administrators were put in place to identify a plan to mitigate the possible decline in enrollment. And what they found in 1934 was that they had at Penn State the largest enrollment historically in the incoming class at Penn State. So there were students who recognized and parents who recognized the value of a college education. And moving on to the 1960s and 2008 and recession, the impact was very bad on workers, but we also found that there was a need for higher education to respond quickly, upskills, different courses there that were responsive there to the economic shutdown and the workers' needs to become gainfully employed. Again, for the economic crisis in American higher education, we have to be agile. We must be responsive to the workforce needs that can get people retooled. We have to do it in a short amount of time now, given that we are currently faced with just-in-time for profits. Our public sector institutions must have the ability to move forward innovative programs. And so the other thing I wanted to assure the regents about was that we have guardrails in place as a result of working with you over time. We have, for example, the low enrollment courses, low completion policies approved by you, the board. We have academic program review in place. And then we're currently looking at the academic program review with the Lumina quality assurance. The one thing we must do is prepare for change. And that is through innovative programs. And as in my presentation, you all have my paper here. I had a great time just reviewing historically what's happened. To end my point here with the Governor Wise's comment that it's easy to put new programs on the shelf. It's the easiest response. But persons who are proactive then and who are looking to the future will invest in the delivery system, in programs. And that's why I am so absolutely enthusiastic about moving forward to the BOR Academic and Student Affairs Committee, the need to continue to provide programs that are responsive to the needs, to the workforce needs. We make up the economic engine in the state of Connecticut, and I would dare make the argument throughout the U.S., not the Ivy League institutions. We're the ones who look to make sure that those workforce needs and others are met. So we have to be in a position to pivot. And I really appreciate so much the support of the regions and your understanding of why it is necessary to continue to move forward in an accountable and responsive way, new programs. Thank you very much. I hope I wrapped that up. I gave you guys the position paper in advance, so I hope this makes somewhat of a rational argument for approval of programs after we've thought these programs through quite methodically and carefully, following your sage advice. Thank you, Chair Harris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if anyone else wants your paper, can they request it from you? Is that the best way? Or is it posted somewhere? How can we? Okay.
I'll be happy to post it. All chief academic officers have this paper, and they are free to release the paper. I sent it to all of you, as well as all chief academic officers who too expressed concern. Okay, thank you so much, Chair Harris.
Thank you. Are there any quick questions you want to ask now? I know you have the paper, and there'll be time that you'll be able to ask some of those questions when we talk about the programs themselves. But if there's anything that anyone wants to, there's a burning question you want to ask now, please do it.
Jane, this is Naomi. First of all, thank you very much for putting that together.
Thank you.
It's very interesting to me, and I'm sure to others. If you had the benefit of the article that was in Inside Higher Ed within the last couple of days that looked at a number of surveys that were done recently about college students, especially at the four-year institutions, and talked about the 20% drop in enrollment that about which Ben spoke. Would that have changed your paper in any way?
No, it would not, because what we have to do is ensure that we are in a position to offer. It is all about the high quality of continuity, to offer those programs, to offer the programs, and the institutions have the ability then to put those programs on hold. My position is one where we have to be ready to pivot into action. So if we see a 15 to 20% decline, if students choose a gap year, but I don't think for the most part, honestly, I read the article in Higher Ed, many of those students are not the demographic. Do not meet the demographics that we're speaking about when we look at the students who enroll in our community colleges and many in our regional comprehensive. There will be some students. I was on a national webinar with the AP people a couple of weeks ago where questions came in across the country. And those parents wanted to know when they could get their scores in, their applications. There were calls from across the country. So there will be a group of folk, a subsector, who will be interested in moving forward. So if we look for the 15 to 20% decline, we still must be in a position, whether we're offering hybrid modules, whether we're offering those programs during a shorter period rather than 15 weeks, 8-week things, we have to be in a position to respond to the educational needs. So I don't think that in any way would have changed my position. I think in the face of financial adversity, we must anticipate what things will look like on the other side of this when we come out, because we will come out of it. And I just think we have to find varied ways, Regent Cohen, to respond to that. I know what the projections are, but we cannot afford to not be innovative and ready for the next step. That's where I currently sit or stand on that inquiry. Thank you so much for asking.
Okay, I think that's a good segue to move into the first item let's do the consent agenda and then to the first action item. So let's, excuse me, I want a motion to approve the consent agenda, and then we will move into the first action item, which addresses what we were just talking about. A motion on the consent?
Aviva, I so move.
Okay, Aviva, second.
Holly and Aviva.
Did you get it?
You got.
Okay, Holly has a second. Okay, all in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? Okay, motion carries. The first action item relates to the guidelines for starting Board of Regents approved new programs. This was sent yesterday. It was the item, and it's posted this morning for anyone that didn't see this. It's what we've been discussing, a set of guidelines that we're asking institutions to look at when new programs are approved before they actually start the new program, to make sure that they're ready to do that. So I would like a motion first on the item, and then we'll discuss it. A motion, please.
Naomi, so moved.
Okay,
Holly, second.
Regent Cohn and Holly seconded. Thank you. Questions, comments, anything that you wish to change? This, as you all know, is a set of guidelines we're going to ask an institution to use when it has a new program approved. We're going to ask that they, after they review them, to submit to the provost the results of this review, and if they're going to move forward, and if the provost agrees, they can move forward at the particular date that they're suggesting. If there's a disagreement, the provost will go back to them and say, look at this again. So that's kind of the process. Questions, comments?
Merle, it's Naomi.
Yeah.
I have two questions for Provost Gates. I would, in number 2 of the process, where if the goals cannot be met in the first 2 years, the institution can make adjustments without damaging the program quality. Could you talk to us a little bit, please, about what the clause "make adjustments" means?
Primarily, my thoughts there are that the institution can then delay the launching of the program. It may, in fact, add dollars, if available, to the marketing of the program. And frequently what happens in higher education with new programs, students who are currently enrolled simply may not know what the program entails, may not be familiar with the program, particularly if it's a really new program with a nomenclature or CRN that they're not familiar with. So under those circumstances, if we believe, and this has happened in the past, where goals and programs were not met, but then the institution then has the ability to put that program on hold, make adjustments based on evidence, on data, on survey research, once they drill down very deeply to determine why those goals were not met, and if they in fact believe that the program is still viable, they would have the ability to do that.
The other thing I believe when we discussed this, Jane, that we thought of was that if an institution can't, in other words, has started the program, will they be able to delay the hiring, for example, the full-time faculty person, which they said they were going to hire in the second year? Can they delay that to the third year or even after that? Those are the kinds of decisions. In other words, they're really saying they do have the expertise on campus, or they know they can find adjuncts to teach those courses, and they don't have to commit to a full-time employee. I think that was kind of also what we had in mind with that.
Yes, we did discuss that. Thank you, Chair Harris.
So I would ask about that, and thank you, Jane. I would ask if there's some way, either in the staff report or in parentheses of number 2, to really explain what that means, so that all institutions are working off the same piece of paper.
Thank you.
My other question is in number 5. What does the institution can provide the support to ensure the retention rate will not be jeopardized mean?
I can. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Harris.
Okay. Jane. Okay.
Yes. Are you responding?
Okay, I will. Since we discussed these so many times. In other words, you have to make sure that there is the advisement and the tutoring and the other resources like that will ensure that the student that enters the program will stay in the program. If you are going to not have enough advisors or because you're only doing part-time faculty, you don't have enough faculty advisors for these students, then that could jeopardize the retention rate because there's no one following student progress. So I think that's what we had in mind, Jane. You can add to that.
No, that's absolutely correct. We have to ensure, because we know what works, evidence-based information that increases retention rates. And that is, in fact, the interaction that occurs between the faculty member or the academic advisor and the student that leads to the continuation of that retention rate in our institutions. That's very critical. So we would want to make sure that the institutions are able to provide that support for students. And there's been a great focus on retention and academic advising, and lots of programs out there that have already been implemented. I know specifically in the universities, and also we're focusing on, as one's very aware, guided pathways for the community colleges. That's the quality interaction that then will impact a retention rate for us in all of our institutions in the CSCU system.
Absolutely. So I would say again with number 5, as I did with number 2, that maybe it needs to say something about the institution can provide the, I hate this expression, but student-facing supports or whatever. So that.
Okay, we can say, in other words, where it says support, we can add in student-facing. Is that what you're suggesting?
So that people know what that means.
Okay.
I mean, I may be the only one, but those were the 2 thoughts I had. And again, the third thought I had was thank you very much for getting this together.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Merle? Aviva here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Go on.
The
yes, Aviva.
In the background, I have a question. Are these guidelines that the institution should consider before initiating a plan we have already approved, or are these supposed to be approval? So, in other words, we've approved a plan and they haven't started it yet because, in fact, times have changed. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
In other words,
I wanted to make sure I understood this that way, because it says initiating after the Board of Regents approval, so that this is not the basis for our approval, but rather it is after we've approved. They should reconsider.
Correct.
That was really, in effect, what Naomi was concerned about in the last meeting.
Correct.
And
if you recall, in the last meeting, there were a number of programs
I do recall,
that people wanted, and we have some today that people want to start in the fall, and we're not sure. We may approve the program, but we're not sure it's ready to start in the fall. And these guidelines will have to be used. Right.
Yeah, and it's a question of timing. They can't look at the guidelines last spring when they put it together. Probably this summer to see if it makes sense.
Right. So we're going to add in student-facing support in number 5. And in number 2, would you agree to say the institution can make faculty and staffing adjustments? In number 2, Regent Cohn?
Hi, I had to figure out how to unmute my phone. I would say it's to make hiring and
it's not necessary. It's not necessary. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And additional financial resources, because I think hiring goes to Jane's comment about you may hire more, but you may also delay.
Okay.
So timing should be put in. Timing adjustments too.
What kind of adjustments?
Financial and timing adjustments.
Yeah. Say that last word again. I'm losing it.
Timing.
Financial
timing.
and timing. Oh,
She's saying
timing. T-I-M-I-I-N-T.
I,
timing.
yeah, you know.
You can delay.
Right, but yeah, but this is all the reason that you might delay it. In other words, if you can't make additional, yeah, you would delay the whole thing because the whole thing is a question of timing. In other words, you may want to go forward, but timing is wrong.
Where does it say? Once approved, namely the started considering evidence of the fund. Maybe we should put that in the introduction. Consider, in other words, once approved, may consider to delay the program after considering evidence of the following.
Okay, that an approved, let's see, they are approved by the board, namely that an approved program is started only after
or delayed.
Considering.
Okay,
started or delayed. Why don't we put it in there? Okay.
Yeah.
Or delayed. I agree with you. Okay. So we can say that an approved program is started or delayed. We put or delayed in there, and then we'll put and then on the number 2 we'll say making hiring and financial adjustments. To make hiring and financial adjustments without damaging program quality.
Isn't hiring financial? Just financial adjustments.
Well,
is enough.
But there may, let's say, and other financial adjustments like marketing. We were talking. Jane was talking about marketing.
All right.
So
that's good.
Okay, other financial adjustments, and we'll and down in number 5, student-facing support. So the question is, could I have a substitute motion to make those changes?
I motion Aviva.
Okay, Viva and Regent Cohn.
Naomi.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Is that okay, Holly, with you?
That is.
I think you may
Thank
have
you.
been.
Yes.
Okay.
I was the third one speaking in there.
I know it's hard. It's hard to figure out who did what. Okay. Then, are there any other comments before we move the motion on the guidelines? Okay. All in favor?
Excuse me.
As amended. Yeah.
This is Marianne Fallon from Central. I just have a question about the implication for marketing programs and admitting them. Yes.
This is with the motion, the board members at this point are the ones who aren't.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Right.
Allen.
Thank you. But I agree with, that's the problem. We don't want anyone to really go forward. We have to look at this quickly because we don't want you to market programs that you can't start. Yeah, so you have to be sure very quickly that you can meet these, the guidelines have been reviewed and you're okay, and talk to the provost about it before you start marketing. And our concern is because it's so late that we were concerned that there isn't even enough time to market given the situation we're under. Okay, all in favor of the guidelines?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item then on the agenda, we're going to action items, and the first item here, I have more notes here. I have to find my notes. Excuse me. I have it's on page 36, I believe, right? It's the suspension of computer software support specialists at Capital Community College. It's a certificate program. Could I have a motion to suspend that particular program?
This is Holly, so moved.
Okay, Holly moved. Can I have a second?
Aviva, second.
A second. Okay, a second. So that's the suspension of the computer software support specialist at certificate at Capital Community College. Any questions or comments before we go on to vote? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the suspension of the program?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? The motion carries. Next item is the suspension of the mobile application developer certificate at Capital Community College on page 40. Could I have a motion?
Aviva, I so move.
Okay, Aviva and Holly, I believe, is the seconder.
Yep.
Okay, any comments on the motion to suspend? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion to suspend the mobile application developer certificate?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We are now going on to program modifications, and the first one it's on page 45 of the agenda, and it's the Robotics and Mechatronics. Is that how you pronounce Mechatronics Engineering Technology Program, a Bachelor of Science at Central Connecticut State University. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Holly,
second. Holly seconded. Thank you, Holly. Okay, is there, I know that Dr. Fallon is here. Dr. Gates, do you want to make any comments? Dr. Fallon, do you want to make any comments? I know you have a number of staff members on the phone as well if there are questions.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Central Connecticut State University seeks approval to modify a 130-credit robotics mechatronics program leading to a Bachelor of Science by revising the curriculum in response to rapidly advanced changes and upon the recommendation of the Industrial Advisory Board. An exception to the normalization policy has been granted. And at this time, Dr. Fallon will provide additional information. Thank you, Dr. Fallon.
Thank you, Dr. Gates. This program, the Robotics and Mechatronics Engineering Technology BS, prepares graduates for careers in robotics, programmable control systems, and automation. The curriculum is being updated to align with changing ABET standards and offer our students more opportunity to specialize in higher level robotics courses. This will improve their employability and ability to contribute to the workforce without additional training. It's important to note that even with the general decline in enrollment across the CSU system recently, FTE enrollment in this program has remained strong and even has increased a bit. The inclusion of an industrial internship within the program contributes to the success rate of graduates becoming employed within 6 months. Indeed, all of our graduates are employed within 6 months from this program. These curricular modifications ensure that CCSU's program will remain competitive as UHART launches its 131-credit Robotics Engineering BS in fall 2020. Students with skills in robotics will be in greater demand in a post-pandemic world. And just last week, if you were reading NPR, Spot, which is a robot that could help doctors remotely treat COVID-19 patients, was introduced at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. And robotics will be playing an important role in drone development and automation of equipment, both of which will be important as manufacturing increases within the United States. With me today are Dr. Ravindra Sama, who is the chairperson of the Construction and Manufacturing and Construction Management Department in which robotics is housed, as well as Dr. Hassan Shibli, and Dean of the School of Engineering, Science, and Technology, Ju Kim. And they're available to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from board members? Okay, the only question that I guess I would have is, is the graduation rate acceptable in these programs, this particular program? Can anyone respond to that?
Hello?
In terms of, go ahead. Forgive me. Go ahead. Is this Dr. Sama on the phone?
Yeah, it's me. Can the question be repeated? It was breaking up.
Yeah, the question is, are you satisfied with the graduation rate from the current program? And this is a modification. Are you currently satisfied with the graduation rate?
Yeah, at present I'm very satisfied with the graduation rates, and students, as soon as they graduate, they are able to get a job. That indicates and tells me that like something we are doing right.
Okay. Any other questions from board members?
What is the graduation rate?
I would say it is 100% at present.
Yes, but in terms of the numbers, which is what I think Regent Bud is asking for, that information is located on page 51 of your agenda.
Right.
And you can see that the graduation rate is increasing every year.
I'm looking.
And is getting close to the 10, that threshold of 10. Again, this is a longer program. This is a program that it takes slightly longer to complete than others. But as Dr. Thomas said, as soon as students complete it, they are employed, and they are employed in high-paying jobs. I should also mention that in terms of the number of programs of its type in the region, it is one of a few. So we are competing with things like Worcester Polytechnic Institution. And now we will be competing with UHART. However, if you look at our competitive price point, we are miles ahead of what UHART will be charging for a 131 credit degree.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Other questions?
So in each graduating class now, you have about 10 people. Is that it? Out of the 50, more or less full-time, last fall, only 10 are coming up for graduation in June?
Regent Bud, I can't answer that question because I don't know the number of students who have applied for graduation. These are the actual conferrals. So I wouldn't know who is applying for graduation and who's ready to graduate.
I see, but it's about right if it's four-year course.
I guess the reason I raised that question initially is it is a pretty low graduation rate, and I do know that it takes a little more time to complete this kind of a degree, but I'm concerned about support for students that I guess when you're in this kind of a more difficult program, and if you have that kind of support available. Student-facing support, as Regent Cohen would say.
Right. Dean Kim, would you like to address that issue?
Yes. We have within the school student success support for students like tutoring and advising. And so based on also requests that we also are able to create specialized tutoring for particular courses that students are taking. So we're making adjustments and also flexible in providing type of student support that student needs.
Okay, I mean, I think that expresses my concern. If you look at our guidelines, even for starting a new program, that's the one we were just talking about. That very often we accept students, we recruit them, and especially now with the economic issues, we don't have enough faculty or other resources to support them. So I just think that you need to be sure that you are doing that, because to bring someone through 3 years of a program and then have them drop out and not graduate doesn't leave them with too much. Any other comments? Okay, then I will take a vote on the motion. All in favor of approving the modifications to the robotics and mechatronics, I'll get it right, you may be, engineering technology degree of Bachelor of Science at Central Connecticut State University. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion carries. Thank you very much. And it is a needed program, and we just hope that you do have support for students as they move through the program. Okay, the next item is on page 56 of the agenda. Again, it's Central Connecticut State University. It's a new program, a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Could I have a motion?
So moved. Naomi.
Go ahead. Okay, we have a motion from Regent Cullen and a second from Aviva Budd. Are there any, let me turn to Provost Gates first to talk about the program, and again, talk about anyone who's here to discuss the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Harris.
Dr.
Central Connecticut State University seeks licensure and accreditation of a 30-credit mechanical engineering degree leading to a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering with an embedded 12-credit official certificate program referred to as OCP in your document in Additive Manufacturing Engineering. Accreditation will be granted for a period of 7 semesters, beginning with the program's initiation. And Dr. Marianne Fallon will provide additional information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Fallon.
Thank you, Chair Harris, and thank you, Dr. Gates. CCSU is excited to embark on offering its first master's level programs in pure engineering. We're phasing out our Master of Science in Engineering Technology to offer 2 more specialized and in-demand master's degrees in mechanical and in civil engineering, which we'll discuss later. The curriculum of the Mechanical Engineering MS is designed to satisfy ABET accreditation requirements and encompasses 3 concentrations, planned concentrations, in mechanical design, materials and manufacturing, thermofluids and energy, and control dynamics and aerospace systems. The program is scheduled to launch in fall 2021 with only the mechanical design, materials, and manufacturing concentration to start, with others to follow pending demand. The curriculum also incorporates 2 official certificate programs in additive manufacturing engineering and advanced manufacturing engineering to accommodate professionals who are seeking to satisfy elements of their continued education requirements to maintain licensure as professional engineers. Our strong undergraduate program in mechanical engineering, which has averaged over 45 conferrals each year over the last 3 years, provides a natural feeder system into the graduate program. The CT Department of Labor expects that demand for mechanical engineers will grow from 23.8% from 2016 to 2026. I understand that things are different, but that projected growth will probably or suggest that the industry can sustain potential economic downturns. Further, according to JobsEQ, only 32% of the current workforce is estimated to hold an advanced degree, which gives us an opportunity to further educate the workforce of mechanical engineers. With me today are Drs. Nidal Al-Masood, who is the chairperson of the engineering department, and Dr. Peter Baumann, as well as Dean Ju Kim from the School of Engineering, Science, and Technology. And they are here to answer your questions. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions, please.
This is Aviva Budd, Regent Budd. May I ask a question? I'm very supportive of mechanical engineering, and I think it's fabulous that you have 49 graduates every year average. My concern is whether and I'd like your input. What is attractive for a graduating mechanical engineer instead of getting a job, which is readily available at a fairly good salary, to go on to get a master's in mechanical engineering? What is the incentive in the marketplace for this person? I would imagine later, but I'm talking about right out of school, because I see that one of your proposals is to draw on your undergraduate or your graduating class as the half of them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you projected about 20 some odd would go on for a master's. I'll check the numbers, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
So, Dr. Al-Masood, would you like to first address the issue of why somebody would go directly into the graduate program? And then, Regent Budd, I would turn your attention to page 67 of the agenda regarding our estimates of who might desire to pursue an MS immediately. And given the survey of students at CCSU, that estimate was about 28.2%. And then we kind of figured out how many,
okay.
28.2% of our graduates.
Okay, so you'd be like 12 or 13?
No, it's 24.
Right. But if we,
yeah, 12 or.
But if we consider who is eligible to qualify or who would be qualified to actually be in the program and take into consideration their desire to be in the program, we could expect about 30 former students from the recent past to be among the first to enroll. So we would already, in theory, based on that algorithm, have a good corpus of students to draw from who would be interested in the program based on their own self-report. And Dr. Al-Masood, about employment?
Well, hello everyone. Now, regarding employment or regarding, some students like to go to grad school because they're, we have, by the way, we have our first PhD student. He just finished a couple of months ago. So some students like from the get-go to go to grad school regardless of, they don't think of going to industry right away. So this is one thing. Another thing that is makes students go to grad school is there's a big, I would say, $10,000, $15,000 pay difference between having a master's degree and having also having a bachelor's degree. In addition, for example, for industries like Pratt & Whitney, those who go in design, especially, in particular in design, they need to be high caliber students, and most likely they would like to, they can do more.
You're cutting out.
Okay, so let me just. Are you okay now?
Yeah, that's much better. That's much better.
Okay. So what I said here is, can repeat. Should I repeat everything or just the last couple of sentences?
Well, I understood what you said about going into design at Pratt & Whitney. You need a higher level degree for a particular job. And if people want to be in design, they can't just expect a job with a master's. So if you could expand on the kind of jobs that are more available with a master's than with a bachelor's, it would be relevant to my understanding the motivation.
Well, see, as far as the job market is concerned, many companies, by the way, they pay their employees to go and have a master's degree. And that essentially, makes it obvious that having a master's degree is something desirable from the employers themselves. Those who many of the students who we basically write recommendation for to go to grad school, all of them are paid by their employers. So it means that the employers do value having a higher degree, and obviously they will expect a higher outcome from the students as well, or from the employers as well. So that's essentially the attractive part of having a master's degree, rather than, in addition to that, also promotion to higher positions as well also is more attractive for a higher degree rather than a bachelor degree. So these are my 2 cents in there. So I don't know whether Dr. Bauman would like to add anything.
No, I think you covered it pretty well, that the jobs that master's students would pursue or work on would be those that are more challenging as engineers. They would have the tool set in order to perform those more challenging positions.
I can understand a part-time student going back for an engineering master's after working concurrently with employers supporting that for their best employees. I can understand that clearly. I cannot really see how existing students, after going through this for 4 to 6 years to get a degree, wouldn't want to be out in the job market immediately. And so the master's, I think, has to probably rely heavily on part-time students from the industry. That would be my assessment. And I can understand mechanical engineering to a great degree in Connecticut because of our aviation industry and the kind of manufacturing that Connecticut does. That I can understand. What is the pay difference? What is the pay difference between a master's and a bachelor's for a mechanical engineer?
I'm not sure myself, but I think it would be about $15,000 as an estimate.
Thank you. And Dr. Almasud, did you want to talk about the pathway to the professional engineering licensure and how that's accelerated when you get a master's?
Well, obviously, this is not in all states, by the way. In some states, like for example, New York, if you have a master's degree, then you will be exempted from some things that Bachelor of Science holders will require to have. For example, they will, for example, in New York State, where I live, by the way, is they need 8 credits to have the PE license. Among them is the master degree, which accounts for 1 credit. Also, it reduces the waiting time because the students have to wait, or the candidates for the PE license have to wait for 4 years before applying. So if you have a master's degree, then that is reduced to 3 years rather than 4 years. And in addition to having one credit as well towards the 8 credits that they require for higher education for the PE license. In some other states, they do require people to have for example, Michigan, you have to have a master's degree to have a license. So the PE license changes from a jurisdiction to a jurisdiction. So there is nothing common between all states. So it does add a value for Connecticut. It does not require anything. So as far as I know. So.
Oh, okay. So you don't even have. Okay. So Connecticut,
it doesn't require a master's degree, but I think they do require some sort of what they call continuing education to maintain the license.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know. This is Jacob Spute from QVCC. I don't know if you want me to chime in with some of the data that you would ask for on salary. As part of my self-study, I've been looking up stuff, so I have some of the data if you'd like.
Okay.
So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is national data. I don't have for Connecticut, but typical starting mechanical engineers with a bachelor's degree is 46,200, and with a master's degree in mechanical engineering, starting salary is 59,371. So that's $13,000 difference. Again, that's national data, but I think it's pretty indicative. If you want just a little bit of additional information, there's Raytheon, and I know a number of other companies that actually pay for their employees when they hire them on as starting engineers to go back to school and get a master's degree while they're working there because they want that additional technique. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that in. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Merle?
Okay, yes?
It's Naomi. Please don't shoot the messenger, but I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I am very interested in making a historical record for new programs. So I would like to offer, and I will do it again for all new programs, an amendment for your consideration. And my amendment would take the resolution, and after it goes, grant its accreditation for a period of 7 semesters, beginning with its initiation. I would add the words, to be determined in compliance with Board of Regents guidelines for new programs approved on and after April 3rd, 2020. And after I see if I can get a second, I would be happy to explain it.
So, could you just repeat that one more time? I know it starts, make sure everyone has it, it's after the resolution.
After the last word of the resolution as it exists. So let me read the last clause. Says, and grant its accreditation for a period of 7 semesters, beginning with its initiation. I would add the words, to be determined in compliance with Board of Regents guidelines for new programs approved on and after April 3rd, 2020.
I think there's one clause missing. Wait a minute. Right after right when you begin the resolution, excuse me, I have to find the resolution. I have to go back up to my agenda here.
I don't know what page I'm on. I'm on page 5803. Is that right? That's what my computer shows.
Okay.
Our computers are 2 pages ahead. We should have 2 pages more.
Okay, wait a minute. So I'm almost there. I just think that you need one phrase. Let me see it again, just to say, in compliance with, or let's see.
Yeah, to be determined compliance with.
Yeah.
So initiation to me means initial start. So I assume that's what it means. So I would say, with its initiation to be determined in compliance with Board of Regents guidelines, new programs approved on and after April 3rd, 2020.
Yeah, 4 new programs. Okay, I got it now with that language. Any comments about that before I ask for?
I think you need a second before.
A substitute motion. And I have to have the previous person agree to it. Is it okay with everyone to do that?
Yes. Yes. Who are you asking? You want?
I'm asking Holly and Aviva. I don't remember who.
Okay. Yes, Aviva. Aviva. Yes. Yes.
I'll second
Holly. Amendment.
Okay. So what we will do is each time, if we approve it now, it will be added each time to the resolve that we're to the motion. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to add. I would like to suggest this. I would be in favor of this if it weren't started this year, because I'm convinced that employers are not going to be giving new engineers or any engineers master's money to go to get a master's degree, funding their education starting in September.
Well, first of all, I don't think they want to start. I don't think they want to start this until 2021. Is that correct, Dr. Phelan?
Is that what it said? I missed it then.
Yes,
no, she said that.
That's what it says. And it also says it on the first page of the.
Yeah, it does say
2021.
2021. Good. And then I take that back. Yeah.
And I would say, I think the substitute language, whether it's 20, 21, 21, 22, protects against that and protects is the wrong word. Assures that everybody knows you got to look at those guidelines before you decide. And if the guidelines tell you that, yes, you can do it successfully, do it. And if they don't, then don't. And I picked, I picked April 3rd because that's when we began these discussions about should we or should we not approve new programs.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing,
that's
I believe,
fine. 21 is fine with me.
Aviva, I will say that Pratt & Whitney, which is now, United Technologies, which is now Raytheon, has an ongoing policy of funding education for their employees. They'd have to take some action to stop it because it is in the fact that all employees are entitled to funding of continuing education. And they, as I said, they could. It's been forever.
Oh, in other words, the question is whether they've had layoffs that, for young people being laid off when they're, so
that's true.
You have to have a continuing stream, but 2021 is fine. I'm all in favor of that.
Good. Okay, all in favor of the substitute motion then with the phrase that Regent Cohn added? May I have a vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. The next is the Civil Engineering Master of Science degree on page 74. Dr. Gates?
Thank you. Central Connecticut State University seeks licensure and accreditation of a 30-credit civil engineering degree leading to a Master of Science. Accreditation for this program will be granted for a period of 7 semesters beginning with initiation to be determined in compliance with the BOR guidelines that were newly adopted here. Dr. Fallon, you please provide additional information.
Thank you, Dr. Gates.
Did I take a motion? Did I take a motion on that at this point? I just want to make sure. Okay.
Naomi, I would move it with the clause that we added in the last motion.
Thank you, second? Okay, Holly seconded. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Fallon. Please continue.
Oh, it's no trouble at all. Thank you so much. The MS in Civil Engineering has also grown out of the Master of Science in Engineering Technology program. And like mechanical engineering, its curriculum is designed to be ABET accredited and encompass 3 eventual concentrations in structures, transportation, and environmental and water resources engineering. The program is scheduled to launch in fall 2021, just like mechanical engineering, with the structures concentration. And to quote an April 2nd memo from the president of the American Society of Civil Engineers to Governors Hogan and Cuomo, most recently, ASCE's 2017 infrastructure report card rated the overall condition of the nation's infrastructure cumulatively as a D+. As this current crisis has shown, well-functioning infrastructure provides access to clean water, energy, and a free-flowing supply chain, all essential to limit the spread and impact of the pandemic and to mitigate damage and restore functions following other types of disasters. Growth projections for civil engineers in Connecticut over the next decade are projected at 9.7%, with national employment rates also growing at 10.6%. Here too, we have a strong undergraduate program averaging 25 conferrals per year over the past 3 years. And given the number of conferrals of the bachelor degree in civil engineering compared to the conferrals in the existing civil engineering programs, our program stands to occupy a strong market share and provide a much more affordable option to our three competitors of UConn, UHart, and the University of New Haven, which is still in its infancy. Indeed, the in-state tuition price per credit is half that of our competitors. And even with fees estimated, the per credit cost at CCSU, which is $743 per credit, is less than half that of UConn at $1,655 per credit. The civil engineering curriculum has been designed to share foundational courses with mechanical engineering, which produces efficiencies in our instruction. And with me today, again, are Drs. Al-Massoud, Bauman, and Dean Kim to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, please?
I think the, this is Aviva, Regent Bud. I have the same concerns and probably more so in civil engineering. I wanted to know the job market for master's versus bachelor's degrees. And I'm looking through the materials and the continuing the students that they expect to get out of the undergraduate group is out of 27. What is that, 4 or 5? I want to see where they anticipate the student, because the projections don't look particularly promising.
Can someone respond to that question? Thank you.
Sure. So to address the issue of what our enrollment might look like, of course, we're always trying to balance realistic projections and conservative projections with optimism. But my personal bent is to be more conservative and realistic, just as an aside. I do have some information from our transcript requests from the students in the BS of Civil Engineering. During the academic years of 15 through 18, 21 students requested transcripts to other institutions that look to be graduate institutions for engineering or related fields, and conferrals during those 3 years were 62 at CCSU. So that ratio of conferral to transcript request is about 3 to 1. And of the requests made, about 50% of them were for in-state institutions, so UConn and UHart for the most part. And if those students stay with us, that roughly corresponds to those 5 students per year that was predicted. I should also mention that if you're looking at the IPEDS data for those same academic years, and you're looking at conferrals of BS to MS, it's at a rough estimate of about 5.5 BSs to 1 MS. So if we think of it that way, like there are 5.5 bachelor students to 1 master's student in a given year, and about 43% of our students are looking for programs out of state, that might imply to us, and it does kind of convey to us, that maybe there aren't good enough in-state options to keep them here in Connecticut. And we believe that given our competitive price point, that we are going to be a very attractive option for students pursuing a master's or making a decision to pursue a master's in the state of Connecticut. And Dr. Massoud, as well as Dean Kim and Dr. Bauman, can speak more directly to the types of jobs that master's levels students in civil engineering can enjoy.
Thank you. Let's respond to the question of,
Dr. Al-Massoud, the Chair of Engineering. Now, as far as the job for the master level and for both, I mean, I think it will be the same argument that we made in the mechanical, as far as being from the responsibility point of view. they will have basically do more design or in-depth design and analysis for bridges, for infrastructures, for whatever they're doing, water resources, and so on. In addition to expediting the PE license. Now, the PE license in civil engineering is almost a must. I mean, all our district engineers, for example, they have to have a PE license. And in our Department of Transportation in Connecticut, you cannot go to a supervisory position without having a PE. So it does give them an edge over those who do not have the PE, and having a master's degree is also an additional tool for them, in addition to, of course, the salary increase in that. So, I mean, that is in general what I would, how I would respond to this question. I don't know whether Dr. Bauman has anything as well.
Well, okay, I just wanted to make sure we understand each other. You can get a PE through an exam, can't you, without a master's? Is that correct?
Yes, of course, you can.
Yes.
The question I have,
many states do.
Dr. Yeah, continue.
Many states do require the continuing education credits associated with the PE licensure. So the Master of Science would automatically satisfy those requirements.
What about Connecticut, though? We're really talking primarily of Connecticut students.
Well, not necessarily. A lot of PEs in this state do have their licenses with some of the regional states, and there's some reciprocity.
Right, but what I'm saying is that your students are primarily Connecticut students. You're not going to commute part-time from Boston to get a PE, to take a master's degree here. So the question really is, if we're talking about primarily Connecticut students, what are the Connecticut PE requirements?
Yeah, well, Connecticut does not currently have a continuing education requirement, but that seems to be the tendency is to go towards that. So I wouldn't be surprised if someday Connecticut did have that requirement.
The other question I have, Dr. Harris, is if you look at the Civil Engineering Master of Science degrees on page 86 of the agenda, it shows that there's a huge, not huge because they weren't so large to begin with, but there's a significant drop in the number of master's degrees in civil engineering from UConn and the University of Hartford. They had a high, UH of H had a high of 25 and last year 7. UConn went from 17 to 12. So there seems to be a decline in interest across the state. Can you address that?
Well, from the data in conferrals, we can't necessarily determine interest. So if we wanted to determine interest, that's probably something we would have to request from National Clearinghouse data to see where students applied. So I'm a little reluctant to infer interest from these conferral rates from IPEDS. We would need different data to really address that question.
Other questions? Other comments?
I want to add, Merle, Aviva, Regent Bud, if you aggregate the total number of, on the same page, Merle, you indicated, of civil engineering degrees in the state, I just did a quick, around 170 were in 2018-19. And if you look at the masters, you're looking at an aggregate of 19. So it's really roughly 1 to 10. And if you look at the graduates, even after for the last 5 years or 3 years that we've had in civil engineering, you're talking about roughly 90 graduates, but it's less. It's about 60, 80 graduates if you add 27 a year for 3 years. And if you talked about 1 to 10, you're talking about even existing previous student graduates, not the same class, then you're talking about eight potential civil engineering master's degrees. And we don't build a lot of bridges or power plants or environmental plants. I don't see the need right now under these circumstances to start or to work on this kind of master's program. Not to say it wouldn't be something you want to do in the future. I'd like to see what happens with the mechanical engineering master's first.
I have I guess the question is, if you delayed this another year or come back to us in a year or so, once you have started the mechanical, and what is the downside of that?
Kim, would you please respond to that?
Thank you.
Yes. I think the one downside is that the cost effectiveness, because we have a number of courses that share between mechanical engineering and civil engineering, and that's one important side. Another important side is we are moving toward also focusing on the environmental engineering, and that will have some impact on after post-pandemic situation. So I think having civil engineering side focusing on environmental engineering will be very important for the state as we go forward.
Do you have a BS in civil engineering right now?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yeah, you do, but that's not included on that. Okay, on that other chart. That's why I was curious. The chart that we were just looking at doesn't. I don't think had showed you with the other institutions. No, it didn't.
That is true.
It has.
And the reason why I didn't was to show the comparison between the BS and the MS in the other institutions. But if you're curious about our enrollments for the past 3 years in terms of headcount are 113, 115, and 96. Our FTE is 101.4, 95.9, 82.1. Our size of our credentialed groups for the BS in the last 3 years are 20, 22, and 27.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on this particular program?
If I could return to a point that Regent Budd made just very, very briefly regarding that relationship between the number of conferrals to masters to undergraduate conferrals. So if you look at the 3-year rolling average, that ratio of undergraduates to masters is 5.5, even though it looks it looks much worse for the last single year. But if you look at it as a rolling average, which we often do to not be too swayed by most recent events, we have that 5.5 to 1 kind of conferral rate for a BS to an MS. And given the other data that I supplied over the same amount of time, at least from our graduates seeking transcripts to apply to other institutions outside of state, 33% of our students, a 3-to-1 ratio, were applying to our graduates, were applying to graduate school, just not here. So my impression of that, and that's over the same period, so my impression of that is that our students were leaving in order to get to the programs that they really wanted, and they weren't finding what they needed here in Connecticut.
Well, it also could be jobs.
Yeah, right. You know, it's really kind of interesting that if we really need to do a lot of infrastructure work, and we probably do need a lot of civil engineers, but we're not doing it in this country, that may be part of what's being reflected in the numbers. Do you want to move ahead with this motion? Any suggestions or? Okay, I will take a vote then on the motion to approve the civil engineering master's degree with the as with that amendment that we're having on all of them to begin in 2021. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed, Aviva Budd.
Holly? Holly? Oh. I guess Holly's not on any longer. We have a quorum. I guess it's a tie vote at this point. I am torn, I'll tell you the truth, between starting this in 2021 without knowing what the students are. So I'm going to vote against it at this point. So we have a vote that the motion to move ahead with civil engineering at this time is not approved. And I would suggest that you come back to us with perhaps some more data on just what you were saying, where students are applying, by using IPEDS data to show that there is a significant interest in civil engineering at this time.
In the master's degree, we think there's a lot of civil engineering undergraduates.
Right, no, at the master's level, I'm talking about that. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next item, Applied and Computational Mathematics, a Bachelor's of Science in, on page 90, it's at Western Connecticut State University. May I have a motion? With using, again, the amendment.
With the
language,
friendly
right.
amendment, so moved.
Yes. Okay, second?
A second, Aviva, Richard Budd.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Gates.
The Western Connecticut State University seeks licensure and accreditation of a 120 credit applied and computational mathematics program leading to a Bachelor of Science degree. Accreditation will be granted for a period of 7 semesters beginning with initiation and in compliance with the new guidelines for programs added this morning. This innovative program is unique in its combination of options. Dr. Missy Alexander, Provost, will provide relevant information.
Good morning. This is Missy, and I have with me Dean Michelle Brown and the chair of the Math Department, Stavros Christofi, and his colleague, Michael Shoshani, who helped develop this program. I will give you a brief overview here, but just want to point out that at Western Connecticut State University, we have a tradition of supporting professional education built on a liberal arts foundation, and this new degree is just yet another expression of that. In case you are not fully aware, 3 of our 4 schools are entirely professionally oriented, and our liberal arts school, the majority of the degrees have this component. Our math department has long been a mainstay, of course, like any liberal arts program, but it has been exceptional in its both regular BA, but our BS in education has been actually exceptional, particularly in the reconfiguration of our elementary education degree, which meets all sorts of STEM initiatives in the state. However, in the last 10 years, we have seen some drop in the interest in the traditional BA, and we started an exploratory project to develop this BS in applied mathematics. The BS direct career connection from their undergraduate degree, and we have done components of this for the last several years through independent studies. This new degree makes the connection clear for anybody coming into the mathematics department in the next, well, from now until as soon as this is launched. but it also allows us to make clear for all of our students a trajectory to profession as well as graduate programs. The program is 70% built on existing curriculum, so it is very cost effective. We are really only adding 7 new courses and have revised 1. And if we take a slow open in the fall by just allowing internal transfers and perhaps capturing some of our starting freshmen, it will still be revenue generating. To address a question that was asked earlier, I just want you to know that our budget only includes tuition. It does not include fees. It has a projected faculty line in the 3rd year, but only if we meet enrollment targets. We have the talent we need now. That will only happen if we start to see growth. I want to just ask Stavros Christofi to give us 2 minutes on how this program is laid out and what its unique career options are. Stavros?
Hi, this is Stavros Christofi, Math Chair at WCSU. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. My provost always makes my job easy, but allow me please to take a few moments to provide an overview of the application that is before you today, a result of discussions with constituents and study of best practices from prevalent organizations such as NSF and many others. The BS in Applied Computational Math is a versatile degree that is becoming even more relevant with each passing day. The degree allows a student to choose one of 3 different options, namely mathematics of data science and machine learning, actuarial science, and applied differential equations and scientific computing, each providing students with a strong theoretical background, a powerful set of skills to tackle real-world problems, opportunities for internships and research, and upon degree completion, solid prospects for securing relevant employment or entrance to graduate school. The flexibility offered through the 3 unique options of our program, each of which delves into major subfields of applied computational math, sets us apart from other programs. In fact, no other school in Connecticut offers a program that comprises of all 3 options, and while there are portions available elsewhere in the CSU system, each program has its own distinct flavor. Moreover, in the geographical region encompassing New York City, Hartford, Boston, and surrounding counties, only 3 specifically offer applied and computational math programs. These distinctions and the upward demand for graduates with applied and computational math skills, as evidenced in our application, help support the claim that this is a valuable program for the BOR to approve. The relevance and importance of all math and its applications is further underscored by the current COVID-19 pandemic. Math modeling, facility with computations and scientific computing, as well as data analysis, are an integral part of the program, and there are numerous examples that leaders are now relying on these skills to make public health and economic decisions on an international level. Further specific details can be found in the application, and Dr. Shishani and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have. Before I finish, let me say that the WCSU team is very excited about this program, further boosting WCSU's pride and strength in applied learning. WCSU's math department has been the only department to bring the highly successful and exciting Who Wants to Be a Mathematician competition to Connecticut. We believe this degree will bring a similar excitement to WCSU every day as Who Wants to Be a Mathematician does every 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Why aren't you considering part-time students? Because we have a lot of community college data science programs now, and some of those students, I'm sure, are going part-time.
Let me just answer that. We absolutely will accept part-time students. We modeled it on full-time, but there is no problem with them coming in part-time. We just have not had an experience of a lot of students transferring into math part-time. Most of them come full-time. But the pathway is very clear, it's easy, and we just didn't want to budget for something that we know generally doesn't yield part-time students.
But I think we do recognize that.
Late in the day? Because they could, so they can go part-time?
Yes, they can. Like any part-time student, they will, have to map out when things are offered. But we have lined this up with TAP for transfer very easily.
Okay.
So it should be fine.
This is Naomi. I'm sorry if I missed this. And when you hear my question, you'll know why I could never take applied and computational mathematics. In your budget, does this say that you're hiring administration and faculty?
No, let me be clear. The administrative costs in the first 2 years are reassigned time to set up the program and make sure that it gets launched well. In the third year, we take that out because we think it is part of the regular chair duties. Okay, so that's reassigned time. You see some funding there to pay an adjunct if we need extra sections of the foundational courses. Most of these courses have seats available for calculus class, if we're lucky, if we're really lucky. So that's what that budget is for. In year 3, we have put in the cost of a new full-time faculty member, but that is only if we yield real growth. All right, we currently have all of the expertise we need to offer this degree. And if we don't yield real growth, we will not move to hire an additional faculty member.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, could I have a vote on the motion to approve the Applied and Computational Mathematics Bachelor of Science degree at Western Connecticut State University? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay. Holly, are you back?
Yes, I am.
No.
Sorry, my phone died. I had to switch to the other one.
Okay, you missed an important vote, but I'm not going to ask how you would vote it at this point in time, so let's go on. Application for continued accreditation of the, here we go again, Mechatronics Automation Technician C2 Certificate at Quinebaug Valley Community College. This is a continued accreditation after the 7th semester time, so we won't need the, we will not need the amendment. So may I have a motion?
Naomi, so moved.
Holly, second.
Can I? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Dr. Gates, quick comment.
Thank you. Quinebaug Valley Community College seeks approval to grant accreditation of a Mechatronics Automation Technical certificate leading to a C2 certificate. John Lewis, Dean of Academic Affairs and Student Services, will provide additional details regarding this request.
Dr. Lewis?
John? Good morning. I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Dr. Gates. Thank you for hearing us this morning, committee members. So this Mechatronics Automation Technician certificate program is actually one of the ones that came up in front of you last year as a whole group of programs that had been licensed but not accredited. And at the time you heard that presentation, one of the requirements of this committee was that we come back in a year with a specific, you gave us continued accreditation for 1 year and asked us to return at the end of this academic year subsequent to census and to provide you with some additional information. So I don't think this program has been in place for a full 7 semesters. We're here because of the requirement that was made from this committee last year. The program is still in its infancy, but it does promote and support the local manufacturing and mechatronics industries throughout Eastern Connecticut. We are very proud of the program. We're very proud of our facility and our staff and faculty. And we're here to ask for continued accreditation. I have with me today
the program coordinator, Professor Jacob Spute, and the Assistant Director of our Advanced Manufacturing Technology Center, Jody Clark, both of whom are prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions, please.
This will be the bug, Regent Bug. I saw a drop. You had a drop in students in this course this year. Can you explain that? Your plans for improving the enrollment?
Yes, I'm going to let Jody Clark answer that.
Okay. Good morning, all. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, can everyone? Okay. Yep. All right. So yes, there was a drop in the third year of the program. Throughout my time, I've been with the Advanced Manufacturing Department for 7 years now. In the beginning of the Advanced Manufacturing Certificate, the CNC Machinist program, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that, but the first 2 years were strong and solid, and then the third year of that program, it dropped. And then, so I'm seeing Mechatronics do the same thing, but with the Advanced Manufacturing program, after the third year drop, the numbers continued to grow. And now we're finishing up our 8th year, and we're at over enrollment of our program. So there's that, that flow of it. There's also, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a bad thing, but the success of the Advanced Manufacturing program, the CNC Machinist program, is shining so bright that that's what QV is known for technical program. So when students come to us, all they've heard about from their instructors, teachers, friends who graduated from the program is about the machinist program. Then they realize that, oh, you have the robotics or automation program. I want to do that instead. So the reputation of the program is growing. And also with the graduates growing, we work with marketing, and we're planning on bringing in, once all of this COVID-19 is all over, we're bringing in some of our graduates and getting testimonials, so that way we can put together a beautiful marketing piece with all of the students talking about how this program has benefited them at their current employment or helped them gain employment. So those are our plans and my observations.
Do any of the courses in this program overlap with courses in your other manufacturing disciplines? Or are they separate completely?
They do. They're completely separate, but they piggyback off from each other. I've had many of my advanced manufacturing students, because the Mechatronics program, it's robotics and automation. So it's, we're creating technicians. So our, whether it be technicians to help build and design or fix say a conveyor belt system in a factory, or CNC machines, because our CNC machines are all automated as well. So some of our students that have gone through the Advanced Manufacturing Certificate, they come through the Mechatronics, so they can, now that they know how the machine operates, they'll now know how to fix it.
This is Jacob Spute, the program coordinator. I would also add that both of the certificate programs, the machining and the mechatronics, go into the College of Technology's Technology Studies 2-year transfer degree. And so it's, if students are interested in doing that and transferring on to Central, there's that nice pathway that's available, and they can kind of switch between because all of the technical electives go together. And then also, we have a Robotics Club that competes in things. So I've had students who've started in the Mechatronics, but then come to the Robotics Club, and then that entices them to, as they're still working, come and complete the 2-year degree. So it's a nice way of pulling them from a more career-focused certificate program into an academic track for that. And it doesn't, not all of the credits will come over if they choose to do this path, but I have had students who have done the Mechatronics degree. Jared Denholm, Jody is one this year, who've come over and are doing the engineering science degree, and 6 credits or 6 to 8 credits go into the technical electives portion of the engineering science degree. So for students who want to continue on to be an engineer, not all of the technical credits come over, but some do.
I'd also like to add to that. Well, can I add to that? So we have, I have sat with folks at Central. So not only does the tech studies, the gen ends transfer over to Central, but I've sat with folks at Central and came up with an agreement that 4 or 5 of our mechatronics courses transfer into Central's mechatronics program at the bachelor's level.
So 4 or 5 of the not of the certificate courses?
Correct. Yes, of the certificate courses.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that also makes it easier to advise students into taking those courses as elective technical courses from other programs.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's an important difference then.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
How was that agreement?
How
was that agreement Central memorialized?
It was a meeting between the head of the program there at Central. I cannot say his name, so I'm not going to even try. But it was an agreement. He is going to email the final, to have it in Word on a have a final draw
in writing.
Of the agreement.
Okay.
Yes, in writing. Thank you. this whole stay-at-home thing.
Thank you. Right. I know. Okay. I think it's that some of these courses transfer is important as well, because you are losing a few dollars right now on as of this current year, or last year, I should say.
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready to take a?
I want to make a comment.
No.
Can I make a comment, Merle?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, people,
certainly.
But I am concerned because I think mechatronics and automation and manufacturing and automation, a lot of things, is a great thing and it's worth learning. But it troubles me that it's not reaching its projections, and it should, even though 23 enrollees isn't terrible, it would seem to me that this could be marketed to manufacturers in the vicinity, in Connecticut, that are in the vicinity where it's convenient. But you haven't mentioned a marketing program besides to your existing students, which would be taking them from one program into this program. I wonder why you haven't reached out to create a different kind of marketing program.
So that our marketing program isn't just going to be, it's not targeting our current students. Our marketing program is targeting our community and our industry partners. Currently, our numbers are because of our current industry partners. The majority of our students, you'll see in the packet here, there's a graph that gives you an idea of how many of our students are coming from industry partners. And so as like I mentioned earlier, our program or our advanced manufacturing program outshines the mechatronics program right now. So along with community and industry partners, knowing QV specifically for the advanced manufacturing, mechatronics, but the industry partners are as well. So my industry, we have an advisory board, and my advisory board is growing every year. And so along with, on that point, you know, our advanced manufacturing program is 8 years in, and we're still getting phone calls, you know, because we're up in the quiet little corner where Rhode Island and Massachusetts border us. We're still getting calls from companies that just learned about our advanced manufacturing program, and they're our neighbors just over the line from us. And this is a program that's been going on for 8 years. So the marketing attack is, like I said, to just really make our graduates shine and to get out there. Steve LaPointe, he's the director of the program. Him and myself, we hit our feet are on the pavement constantly, knocking on new companies' doors and inviting them into the industry or into our advisory board and whatnot. So that's part of the plan as well.
This is Karen with the College of Technology. I just wanted to comment on one thing that is really just getting off the ground is the Mechatronics program at Quinebaug, and the courses are part of this partnership we have with this ARM Institute that's focused on mechatronics and robotics. And the courses have been approved as part of an apprenticeship program with the Department of Labor. And so we are now just sending this out to companies to let them know that, you know, their students actually can enroll in these courses at Quinebaug, and the companies can actually apply for some of the funding that supports these apprentices. So I think that will help the program as well.
Oh, that sounds very good. That sounds good. I'm looking at the graph. Yeah, it sounds very good. I'm looking at the graph, and if you look at the graph you're talking about on page 111 on the computer, I guess I don't know what page it is in the material, page 109. It shows, the gray chart shows how sponsorships in the industry has gone down materially. But what you just said makes me hopeful that you'll be able to promote this in industry, which is obviously where it should be, you know, and with the Department of Labor. That sounds good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I know that I wanted to definitely give a shout out to Quinebaug because their program was actually one of the model programs we used when we were having these discussions with the Department of Labor.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move this along because we have it's after 11:30 and we have a lot to go. I want to ask approval of the motion to approve the C2 certificate at Quinebaug Valley in Mechatronics Automation for Mechatronics Automation Technician. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The next
Thank you so much.
Is an application.
Thank you so much.
The next is the app.
And thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
No, great.
The next is the application for continued licensure and accreditation of the computer networking courses. There are actually 4 different motions, this is somewhat confusing, and I've asked kind of Dr. Gates to explain it or to have it explained so that we can understand how these interrelate. I guess I'll take maybe what we should do first, and if you disagree with me, is have an explanation of how these interrelate, and then we can take the motions one by one. Does that seem like a good idea? I know, Aviva, we've had discussions about that. Does that seem logical to you?
To me, yeah, but I'd like the detail, not because we've all read the materials and we know how they interrelate to that extent, but the materials don't make it clear in my mind the overlap or whether they're parallel or degrees, because that's what I would like focused on.
Well, maybe you can ask your question right now so that we can get it addressed in the overview, and then we can go on to the individual.
All right. Okay, I think the language that calls networking, computer networking, a parent is, from what I read in the materials, is confusing. I think that you have two associate's degrees, and what I really wanted to know, what was the relationship between the two associate's degrees? The certificates embedded in those degrees is understandable easily. The real question is, does the networking cyber technology degree stand independently of the computer networking associate's degree? What I would like to see is the explanation of the two associate's degrees. That'll clarify it for me.
Okay. Okay, I think that's good if we have that explanation. Thank you, Dr. Gates. And then we'll go back and take the motion.
I will provide sort of a general explanation there, and if we need more specifics, the academic dean can add information. But primarily, I think what's leading to the confusion, the parent program is that Associate of Science degree. The AS option is a concentration, options or concentrations within the parent program. So they can be offered just as certificates are as a standalone credentials, but they are all a part, the curriculum of that Associate of Science degree. So there is one degree, Computer Networking Associate of Science degree at Capital Community College that is available to students to seek that degree, but within the Associate of Science Computer Networking, there are concentrations. Like in other disciplines, we may offer a BA in one of my areas, political science, where one may want to simply choose an option in international politics or an option in comparative, or so it's an option within the degree. And maybe that should be a further explication on that. And one can choose the option, but it is a part of the curriculum of the entire program, Computer Networking Associate of Science. I hope that clarifies it. Did you want to offer additional explanation there, Maya?
Well, let me see.
The dean?
Well, let me see if Aviva's satisfied before
I'm not
go on.
satisfied. No, I am not satisfied. Because the thing says Computer Networking Associate of Science. That's, you've got different motions. You've got
No, that's correct. That is the Associate of Science degree. That's the parent program.
Okay. Then what are, if cybersecurity is the option under computer networking, what are the other option specialty in the Associate of Science degree? Because a cybersecurity is not a separate Associate of Science degree. You're going to get a computer networking Associate of Science degree, and you can have a specialty in cybersecurity, or you can have a specialty in what else?
Correct. That's the specialty in cybersecurity, and then the others are simply. You can get
what
the
other
certificate.
specialties?
The cybersecurity.
Wait, I still don't get it. If I want an Associate of Science degree, what are my other Associate of Science AS degree specialties besides cybersecurity?
This is Dr. Maya Lapierre-Dreger. I'm the academic dean at Capital, and I can answer some of these questions.
Yeah. Yes.
You may, Maya. Dr. Maya Lapierre-Dreger.
Thank you, Provost Gates, and thank you for trying to answer these questions on our behalf. So I will clarify, and I apologize for confusion. Yes, the Associate of Science is computer networking, and cybersecurity is the option underneath of it. Separately, at the institution, we have a separate Associate of Science in Computer Information Systems and a separate Associate of Science in Computer Support Services. However, we just discontinued that earlier in the agenda. We also have, of course, our Transfer Computer Science degree for TAP. But there's a suite of certificates that are also tied with computer networking, and that's why we have these additional proposals. Now, I apologize for confusion. When these were first developed back in 2015, the original degree, computer networking, and the option, cybersecurity, were created using two separate proposal worksheets, which at the time was what we were directed to do. And I think that's what caused some of this confusion rather than combining them into one.
So I think the question, Maya, is could I do a computer networking degree in AS without doing cybersecurity?
Correct.
And what would that look like? What courses would be included in just computer networking without the option? Because obviously you still have the same number of credits to get your degree.
That is correct. If you look at the curriculum sheet, which I believe in your document is page 121. Let me scroll down. Working remotely is not as easy as it is in person.
I know.
Okay, so page 121 is the curriculum sheet. And so you'll see in the curriculum sheet, there's data communications and networking level 1, 2, 3, and what was 4. However, we've just recently changed it to a different course. Those 4 courses, only levels 1 and 2 are required in the cybersecurity option because there are more specific courses related to cybersecurity instead. In addition, I believe there's a third course that's separate.
So I guess the question would be, if you took, and Viva can correct me if I'm asking the wrong question, if you took just the computer networking associate degree without a focus on cybersecurity, what type of jobs would you be eligible, to fill or prepared to fill?
They are different. So, for example, in the networking world, and by the way, I speak as academic dean, but also prior in my former life, I was a faculty of computer networking technology and the department chair and a PC in that area for many years. So I'm speaking from experience. So as a computer networking specialist, there are certain certifications. There's something called a CCNA, it's a Cisco Certified Network Associate, which up until recently was a 4-course sequence to get that industry licensure. So the computer networking degree itself has been set up aligned with that full cohort of courseware that's needed to get the CCNA certification, which is a recognized industry credential for a professional in the networking field. Additionally, there are other certifications that a student can accomplish through this program related to Linux, related to a number of other things. But that's the primary core of it. However, the Cisco CCNA in the industry world also has sort of 2 versions where there's the first half and the second half, because there's an understanding that not everybody who has a networking who works in that industry needs the full CCNA certification, and there are entry-level versions which essentially just cover the first half of it. So in the cybersecurity option, that first half of it is included so that someone can go in with some networking credentials that are focused on building your network infrastructure and routing your switches, setting up your routers and setting up your switches. However, the cybersecurity option has a much stronger focus on cyber-specific curriculum. For example, network security, information assurance, computer forensics, ethical hacking and network defense, etc., which someone with a general networking background would not need to have that specialty area of cybersecurity knowledge, which is why it's really important that we have the primary degree but the more specific option for those students who are interested in that.
Merle, if you're satisfied, I want to ask a question.
Yeah. I am. Yes, continue.
It seems to me, from my experience, that there are lots of certificates in the industry for specialties, like Microsoft has a certificate. I'm sure Linux has course certificates. There are courses out there for specialty computer certificates, I would think, in the commercial world. I'm concerned that an AS degree in networking is not really what the market for. The market out there is for jobs with certified professional training in specific kinds of software or process or computer kind of programs. And what I would like to know, if we didn't have an AS in networking, just computer networking, can we still provide the certificates that might be attractive, the 6-month or 12-month courses and for certificates, and the cybersecurity, which seems to be very much desired? But I don't see any real motivation, or at least enrollment, or a attractiveness in the simple AS computer networking degree. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
So I will answer that in two parts. So the first part is, yes, we certainly could have certificates that are standalone and address needs, and we in fact do have the 3 that are on our list here. There are also certificates individuals can get through continuing education, et cetera, which we do have prior learning assessment agreements in place, where if someone comes in with a particular industry credential and it aligns with a specific course, they would get a prior learning assessment credential for that previous certification. However, I would have to disagree when it comes to the degree. This field, while it is true that industry certifications are the gold standard to have, an individual is not competitive in this field if they don't have bachelor's and indeed master's and even doctorate level credentials related to networking and cyber. It's just such an advanced field, and it's really quite widespread. There's also a networking degree at Central that years ago I actually helped set up prior to my former life at Capital. But that program is something that our program feeds into directly, and then the students go on into various areas of specialty at that level. So without an associate degree to transfer into it, we would not have a vehicle for our students to get into that level of credential, which is absolutely essential.
I guess I didn't make myself clear. I'm not talking about the networking cyber associate's degree. I'm talking about the networking associate's degree, because the request was, from what I can see, is 2 associate's degree, or am I missing that point and keep being confused? If the only degree you're asking for approval for is a networking cybersecurity associate's degree, I have no problem with that, because you have a big interest and I can see the transfer. for that. Is there a different networking degree we're being asked to approve?
So again, the option is part of the parent suite. So the computer networking standalone is the parent degree that the option sits under. And the articulation with Central, their degree is the networking degree. It is not cybersecurity. So it's very important that there be the broad networking, the full CCNA background for individuals who are going into networking without the focus of cybersecurity, of which there are many, many, many jobs that do not require the cybersecurity expertise.
I see. So we're talking about two separate associate's degrees. Okay, yes. Good. I got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I guess since it is a complete suite, what I would ask for to speed things up is if there is any one of these that we want to take off and deal with separately, or else I'd like a motion to approve the five resolutions.
Earl, I have just one more problem. Yeah, go ahead. Before you move, why is networking alone so badly enrolled? It's so low. The enrollment for just the networking AS degree is very low. Why is that? If this is such a prevalent market.
So again, what happens is you have students, I apologize, what happens is you have students who come in and initially are interested in becoming an expert, a networking expert, but of course cybersecurity is all the buzz and all the rage right now. So we have three times the enrollment numbers in cybersecurity because the students find that to be more appealing. But that certainly doesn't negate the fact that you absolutely need the vehicle of the broad networking degree itself to get into other non-cybersecurity related networking jobs.
What kind of job would be available without the cybersecurity with an AS degree?
Any type of network administrator, someone who's setting up your network, setting up your routers, setting up your switches, installing your cabling, working in your network office. There's a lot of back-end work that's done on your network that does not involve security. Security is one aspect of the networking feature. So for example, without getting too technical, if you were on a router, one component of that router is setting up your access control list and setting up your security. And that's where the cybersecurity expert would come in and try to set up protocols to prevent intrusion and hacking, et cetera, into your network. Whereas the broad network engineer has the knowledge of setting up the network, but doesn't need to know that level of detail.
Can we do that with a certificate? People with certificates do that.
There are some,
not
but those individuals with certificates.
Degree.
Correct, and they need to continue on to their 4-year degree, et cetera.
And the networking gives you the capacity to do that. Networking AS. Correct?
Correct. If you only had the cybersecurity degree, you'd have individuals that were so specialized coming out of associate level that they would not be, they wouldn't have the flexibility to go into other non-cyber related networking fields. They really need that broad networking path.
I guess I don't understand the difference between a networking certificate job and a networking certificate AS degree. I mean, a networking AS degree, a job availability between the two different degrees. One's for 2 years, maybe 3. The other's a certificate for 12 months. Why is not the certificate leading me to the same job I would get after a 2-year degree? I can understand the transfer for a 4-year degree.
Because the certificates are really designed for individuals who are already in the field. Maybe they have a general computer science background or some other computer technology, but not specifically networking information. And so the certificates are aligned just to the content for the CCNA certification, which is an industry credential. So traditionally, the certificates are only for individuals that are coming in to retool. They already are employed, they already have jobs, and that's why those numbers are far lower.
The one I agree that this is it's very complicated and it's very difficult to understand. And we have to think of how to present it that will make it easier. But I do want to point out to a note in the presentations. Now I can't find the page, but it does show that in total, when you look at the revenue and you look at the expenditures, that the total package is cost effective. And I think that is the important thing as we approve the total bundle. That's why I was suggesting we bundle it together. So it's a total bundle that really makes sense. And I personally leave it to the experts to decide which way people go within the bundle. So I
think, Merle, that the administrative costs might be worth asking. Is there additional administrative costs for each program, or you just allocated a total administrative cost?
Each program is the same. They're all lumped together. So if you look at the administrative costs, their percentages based on the enrollment size, it's the same one program coordinator in charge of the program. So based on if 30% is in one area and 35 to 40% is in another, that's just how the ratios broke down. Collectively, the overall net gains, the 3-year net gains for this bundle is over $340,000. And in our most recent semester in fall was over $86,000 net gains.
That supports Merle's position, Merle's observation, that it really should be taken as a total bundle, a total package.
So I move, this is Naomi, that we adopt agenda item 4F, all 5 agenda items under 4F, no matter how they're listed on the thing, and that, and I'll pause there and then make a comment. Get your second.
Okay, I have a motion, and can I, okay. Second, yes, Regent Cohn, you have a comment?
My comment is, as this goes to the board, maybe we should just reorganize it under one heading and show what we get down the line without separate staff reports, et cetera.
I agree, we should have one. But we actually have to have separate motions because they're separate programs, and that's the way they were originally approved. I believe we need to do it that way.
Let's try to get them on consent. It's my comment.
Am I right, Dr. Gates? That we should have, we could have one staff report, but it should have show the 5 separate motions.
Correct. Because we moved forward this information to OHE that wants to capture the certificates now, which is, that was last year that we were asked to move forward this information. So it can be provided, just as Regent Cohen suggested, one resolution, but we do need action per each of the programs.
Okay, well, you'll figure it out. Thank you, sorry.
Okay. Okay. All in favor of the motion to approve?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no one opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much. And it is hard to do this, I agree, online, around the phone. Okay. G is a replication of a College of Technology program at Tungus Community College. And here again, it's a similar situation where we have an AS and a certificate, which uses the same courses. Okay, may I have a motion? Can I have a motion just like we did before, one motion to approve both? Is that agreeable? And then we can discuss.
That's my motion, items under 4G.
Okay.
Second. I second.
Okay.
Holly, good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve G, the two items under G. Dr. Gates, can you kind of?
Thank you. Tone 6 Community College requests approval of the replication of a College of Technology program in Technology Studies, the Data Sciences, leading to an Associate of Science degree, and to grant its accreditation for a period of 7 semesters, beginning with this initiation. Dr. Amy Fest, Interim Dean of Academic Affairs, will provide additional information and also share with us the programs that exist in other community colleges that have been approved by the College of Technology.
Hi there. Can everybody hear me?
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah,
this is Amy Fest. I have with me today Matt Spinelli, who is the director of our STEAM program as well. This is a replication of a college technology program, both the degree and the certificate. And these programs are currently in place at Northwest Community College. We are very excited to bring them to Tunxus. They require a minimal change in our programs. We only needed to add 2 courses to make this happen, and we do not need any additional faculty to bring this on board. It's a huge growing field, as you'll see from the proposals. There's a lot of growth both in the degree and in the certificate, and there are also multiple now pathways for students into bachelor's programs within our system. I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Questions? Oh, I'm hearing none. Is that correct? No questions?
No questions.
Okay, maybe. Okay, all in favor of approving the replication of a College of Technology program, both the AS and the C2 certificate, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, no one's opposed. The motion carries with the 2 to approve the 2 programs.
Thank you greatly.
Okay, thank you. Going on to H, which is just promotion. It's promotion and tenure, which is a contract requirement that we approve these. And I will have a motion to approve them, and then I will turn it over to Dr. Gates for any comments that she might have. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Holly.
Second, Naomi.
Okay. Okay, Holly and Naomi. Dr. Gates.
Thank you. Upon the recommendations of Dr. Elsa Nunez, President of Eastern Connecticut State University, Dr. Joe Bertolino, President of Southern Connecticut State University, Dr. John Clark, President of Western Connecticut State University, and Dr. Zuma Turo, President of Central Connecticut State University, and in compliance with the terms and processes set forth in the BOR AAUP Collective Bargaining Agreement, the recommendations and letters attached in your packet are forwarded to the ASA for approval for promotion and tenure for 2021 year. Now, if you,
okay.
In the past, I could, sometimes I've broken it down by the total number of tenure candidates and promotion or not, but it is moved forward for approval.
Are there questions? I mean, this is a difficult issue every year because we really are ratifying something that has taken place on the campuses, and we really have learned from the contract language that we have faith in our presidents, and if there is a problem later, which we had once, that it's the president who has certified this, who has the obligation to explain how an error may have happened. Any questions, comments? Okay, I'll have a vote on the motion on page 197. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a second. All opposed, excuse me. I'm going crazy here. Okay, the motion carries. Next item, item I is a
Thank you, Dr. Nunez.
Okay. We're item I, which is a critical item. It is really important, an important item for moving students first forward to NETCHI in, I believe, in June for a review. You have the complete document, and I would ask a motion for approval of the General Education Core, and then we'll have a full discussion. May I have a motion?
So moved, Naomi.
Second, Holly.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jane, do you want to turn this over to Mike Stefanowicz, or do you want to start the discussion?
I will begin the discussion and then immediately turn it over to Mike Stefanowicz. Upon the recommendation of the Student Source Academic and Student Affairs Consolidation Committee and the College Consolidation Implementation Committee, the General Education Core for the singly accredited Connecticut Community College, consisting of 21 to 25 credits, is forwarded to the BOR Academic and Student Affairs Committee for approval. This is pursuant to the Board of Regents plan approved in June 21, 2018, and reaffirmed in December 19, 2019, to adopt a statewide general education curriculum. And now Mike Stefanowicz, Interim VP AA, will provide additional detail.
Thank you, Mike.
Hello, Regents and everybody on the phone. I hope everyone can hear me okay.
Yes.
As we have in the document, we tried to outline in the document the complete process, background, all the background information, the committee membership, to provide full transparency of where the General Education Core came from and what it contains. So the background begins on page 209 of the packet, and it does include the background that the committee was formed and charged by Provost Gates in May of 2018 and began its work. The committee consisted of 12 elected members, one from each college. That was a recommendation that came out of the Students First Academic and Student Affairs Consolidation Committee, that there should be elected members, one from each college, as well as 6 members elected from the SFASA. And I served as a chair, and we had a elected representative as a co-chair of this group. The group met a number of times as outlined in the document between May and September of 2018 and developed a draft proposal. That proposal went out for public campus comments for a period from September 14th to December 1st of 2018. We received much feedback on the proposal. We went out and visited campuses and received written feedback, and all the general education representatives received their feedback. And changes were made to that proposal based on the feedback, and that is on the top of page 210 in the packet. Some specific changes that were made that I'd like to highlight were that 2 separate options which had resided separately were combined. One was art and one was humanities, placed in different areas. And after hearing feedback from the faculty at all of the colleges, it was determined to create one category called arts and humanities. History had been an option with humanities, and that was moved to be bundled with social and behavioral science. Oral and written communication became one category based on the feedback. And then we heard lots of feedback about a student success college and career planning course, which had been listed as an individual requirement. That category was removed and replaced with options that program coordinators can designate. The CSS course may still fit as one of those options if it becomes vetted in one certain category, continued learning information literacy. The changes precipitated some collaboration with the TAP Framework 30 group first, because they had a category called aesthetic dimensions, which had to be modified to become arts and humanities. So we worked on that throughout the spring of 2019. We had some joint committee meetings, and FERC did a lot of work. The proposal went out for more informal feedback in September and October of 2019 through the General Education College representatives. And then the final proposal was approved by the Gen Ed Committee and the SFASA on November 15th and December 9th. Following the board process that has been used for our TAP pathways and Framework 30, we sent the proposal out and asked for an endorsement vote following local governance procedures. And based on feedback we heard from CEOs and regional presidents, we gave an extended feedback period till April 3rd of 2020. During that time, I went out I was joined by Fran Rosselli, who was helping out with the committee and was a member of the committee, but helping co-chair. We went out and visited 7 of the 12 colleges to hear more feedback based on the proposal and answer questions. The Gen Ed work group did convene on April 3rd to review the endorsement votes, which I will talk about in a minute. And that group did approve moving it forward to the SFASA-CC. The SFASA-CC reviewed the proposal on April 24th and approved the 21 credit core, but made a change and a recommendation related to the diversity requirement, which I will speak of in a minute. The CCIC reviewed the proposal just this past Monday and returned the diversity requirement to the Gen Ed proposal. So the change that was made by the SFASA was reversed, and then approved the amended proposal. So the amended proposal that is coming forth is exactly the proposal that was sent out for endorsement. As we go down through the document, I think many of you have seen this, but the proposal consists of the philosophy of general education, the principles of the curriculum, what a general education course will do and what a general education program will accomplish, what the general education curriculum applies to, associate's degrees, not certificates. Again, I'll stress this is for the single one college. This is not for colleges to adopt before that. There's language in there about how this aligns with Public Act 1231, which requires transfer degrees to have a 30 credit core. On page 213 is the actual grid of core, which consists of the 7 categories: English, math, arts, humanities, so forth, science, and so forth. At the bottom, the very last bottom, is the statement about diversity, which had been removed by the SFASA, but has been replaced and put back by the CCIC. Just to explain, the SFASA was not opposed to a diversity requirement. In fact, they supported a diversity requirement, but felt that it should not be limited to the Gen Ed core. And they made a strong recommendation that the diversity requirement be a graduation requirement so that students could take in perhaps a core-level course or a program course to fulfill that. However, based on the original language in the proposal, the CCIC felt that that should be added back and that that should be a general education course. So as students choose their courses or as program coordinators designate courses, they will need to make sure that the student takes not just a course in one of the 7 categories, but also that one of those courses kind of double dips and counts as a diversity course. The Gen Ed Committee has adopted an initial definition of that diversity course and is recommending that a faculty-led committee be formed to further with faculty experts who have content knowledge related to diversity and multicultural studies, and that they would identify the requirements and vet courses, create a list of which courses can be designated as a diversity course. As we go through the proposal, you can see the results of the endorsement votes on the next page, page 214. A number of colleges, based on some union support and some other issues, passed resolutions not to do an endorsement vote. So they did not vote on the proposal as it stands. Some of these colleges did, however, give us feedback, which the committee did consider. But you can see based on the results that we did have 2 colleges that voted to approve, 1 that specifically voted not to approve the proposal or the process, and then a number who resolved not to vote. As you can see here in the document, we've listed the endorsement feedback on the proposal. There was feedback based on the diversity requirement and whether that should be in the Gen Ed core or a graduation requirement. Capital submitted some of that in writing. Housatonic had some language. You can see all the listing here. There was concern at least one college about having 21 to 24 credit core, and recommended that it be broadened to a 27 or 30 credit core. I will stress again that one of the philosophies of this core is that it is a floor, not a ceiling for Gen Ed. So program coordinators have the option of adding additional Gen Ed courses. And in fact, transfer programs will need to add those because of Public Act 1231. They need to have 30 credits of general education courses. All of our TAP pathways also have 30 credits of transfer courses. So our programs which are designed solely for transfer will have 30, but the minimum, the floor, is 21. And many program coordinators, whether it be in technical programs, allied health programs, more career-related programs, really appreciated the flexibility to have 21 and then build on top of that. As you can see from the resolutions, we've included all of the resolution language for the board to look at. There were concerns about shared governance processes. The committee met again in early April after the endorsement vote total, and based on the fact that, based on 2 things. One, based on the endorsement vote total, and also based on the fact that a few committee members had been either recalled or resigned. The committee felt that they did not feel they were in a position to make changes to the proposal at that time. They felt that it was proper to report the proposal and the endorsement votes back to the larger Students First ASA Consolidation Committee, and they respectfully submitted the proposal along with the feedback and all of the results. And as I said, then the SFASA took that up for a vote, and then the CCIC took that up for a vote. So I'm happy to answer questions on behalf of the committee at this point.
Okay, thank you. I think, I guess the thing that is really important, has been a lot of really difficult work. There are 3 things that I was happy to see in addition to the general ed core, et cetera, is that when a course is to qualify for general ed, first of all, it must be vetted and approved by the appropriate discipline group. It can only be one category, so you can't take a course like history of science and meet a history and a science requirement. And secondly, that 2/3 of the emphasis in a course must be on the category, the content and skills of that discipline. So that's really what we're trying to do in general ed, is to help students understand as an introduction, the methods of inquiry and analysis in a particular field, which differ from, say, science and history dramatically. And it's important to understand that there's a different way of coming to the truth in those two disciplines. So are there questions about this very complex process and where we are today?
Merle, it's Naomi. Okay, go ahead,
Naomi.
Go ahead. You go ahead,
Naomi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. First of all, happy anniversary, Mike. It's 2 years since you started the work this month. I know in your report, and I had a cake, but given social distancing, I wanted to be sure to wish you that. I really read this several times, and aside from all the, substantive comments that Merle made, I really think we need to go forward. I think the committee's reached out 18 times to the campuses. They've included a variety of changes based on the feedback. And the votes over the last 9 weeks and the comments, which I really appreciate your including, really fell into 3 or 4 overarching themes, none of which are a surprise, I think, to this committee or to the board in general. People still oppose students first. People have taken position that it's our responsibility to support our union. People have expressed their lack of support for our president and for the board. And there was a lot of comment about shared governance. What struck me as really interesting in the vote resolutions was that there really was not comment about the substance of what's included in the core. Some of that came out in your reporting that, no, we're not going to vote for this for those variety of reasons. But by the way, here's our curricular concern. So I think that to just delay the inevitable and is really not a good strategy at this point, and I am therefore supportive of this resolution.
Aviva?
Yeah, I wanted to know how it was going to be clear as to whether a course met the diversity requirement. If I'm a student, right, I see a description in I guess I have a counselor who helps me pick the core courses I have to take or which would lead to my specialty. And is the catalog going to indicate which meet the diversity requirement? How are counselors going to know this? How does it get implemented?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Regent Budd. There's 2 ways that I think it could be approached. One is kind of a traditional format where courses that meet the outcomes for the diversity requirement are designated as such. And either they have a D designation or an M for multicultural or some type of designator. UConn for many years has had W courses. Students need to complete writing requirements. And there may be even a section of, a history course at UConn that's a general section, and then there's a W section, and that W has more in-depth writing involved. So that would be one way. Another way would be that many of the courses in the social and behavioral science category already meet a single outcome for that category related to diversity. And one of the things that the committee discussed was whether a certain category, like everything that's in social and behavioral sciences, would also be a diversity course. But the committee really felt that they did not have the expertise to make that determination on which way to go, and wanted another committee that has that expertise to be formed to work on that. So it could be that there is a list of, let's say, 10 or 15 or 20 courses that are both gen ed and diversity courses, and then a program coordinator may choose specifically one of those as a requirement for any of the categories, or if the category is left open, it would be up to the faculty member or the advisor to make sure that when a student takes, for instance, an art and humanities, that they choose that one, that one of those is a diversity course. But it has to be clearly communicated to students, I agree.
Okay, so a committee is going to work on identifying what meets it. My question that follows from that, are courses going to be changed to meet this requirement? In other words, social behavior science, are you saying those courses already meet the requirement, or they will be where the committee would recommend that they be altered to meet the requirement as well as to meet the social behavior science requirement?
Yeah, I think it will depend on what the outcomes for a diversity course will be defined as. The committee adopted a very broad definition on page 213 at the bottom, but the committee did not go into... I'm
looking at it, yeah.
Yeah, the committee did not go into further defining those outcomes. So if the diversity course has, let's say, 10 outcomes, and a course already meets those, then that could gain that designation. There may be courses that will change their outcome to meet that the diversity designator. So it's probably going to be a combination of both. I would imagine we have courses currently that may meet the diversity requirement, but that isn't fully defined yet.
But it looks like it'll be concentrated. Excuse me. It looks like it'll be concentrated in item 5. Something in that category, correct?
Possibly, yeah. That's the
most
natural category.
Okay, and this is going to be worked on, and it's going to be developed before this general core requirement goes into effect, I would imagine, because it's going to be terribly confusing if it's not really completed by then.
Correct.
I mean, if somebody takes the social behavior course and then has to take another one because it didn't meet the diversity requirement, that would be terrible.
Right. So the committee felt that they did not wish to hold up this core because the faculty work groups are working on aligning the programs. And one of the first things they ask is they want to know what is the size of the core, what does the core contain? So that work, the vision is that a diversity committee could be formed in the fall semester. They could further work on defining what defines a diversity course with its outcomes, and then start creating that list. But we do have some time as the programs continue to align. Again, this is a requirement that will go in effect for the new college in 2023.
Good. I'm happy with that answer. I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Yeah, this is Kalina. I have a couple questions.
Yeah, Kalina, sure.
So, in addition to diversity requirement would be, this is described as an outcomes-based model embedded in a framework, and it's my understanding that
Kalina?
in the middle, yeah?
I think I don't know if everyone else is, but there's a lot of background noise. It's hard to hear you. Is anyone else having that? That's better.
I hear it also. I think it just stopped. I don't think it was coming from my phone.
Okay. All right.
So it's my understanding that FERC is in the middle of revising the outcomes for these categories included in Gen Ed. When is that to be completed?
Good question.
I know that the work was going on this year, Kalina. I don't know where that stands. If Ken may be on the line, he may be able to answer. But one of the reasons that we did the committee did tie the outcomes to the TAP outcomes was because those did currently exist. And the Gen Ed committee had a number of conversations about not wishing to create new outcomes that might compete or differ from the TAP outcomes. As the TAP outcomes are revised, then these outcomes would align with those because we have adopted those outcomes. I don't know if anyone can give a FERC update.
Hi, this is Ken. Thanks, Mike, and thanks for the question, Kalina. The FERC committee has committed themselves to revising those outcomes in the current year. They had hoped to make some progress this spring, but of course, with the crisis, that has been delayed a bit. But they're well into working on revising those outcomes, and my understanding is a year from now, those revised outcomes should be proposed.
Okay. So I realize, you know, we want to move this forward because we have to move the work forward, and from reading SFAS ACC minutes and from attending your meeting or sitting in on your meeting last week, I realized that the plan is to offer honoraria to faculty who want to work on these programs on, I think the deadline is through December 2020, right, this year. So we're trying to move this forward and get these programs drawn up. But the outcomes that we have currently are not the outcomes that are going to be in. So how much of that work will have to be significantly modified?
This is Mike. That's a little bit of a it's a little bit of a difficult question to answer, but you know, we currently have lists of courses that are vetted for each category at each college. My understanding from the work that FERC is doing is that they are simplifying the outcomes rather than making them more complex, because many of the outcomes were very detailed and very rigorous. So I don't believe that courses, you know, would need to change drastically, but that's a little bit hard to know because we don't know what the new outcomes are yet. I don't know if Ken has a thought on that or if he's seen some of that.
I'll just add two things to that. The proposed 21 to 25 credit core does have outcomes for general education. They're not category by category necessarily, but they do give outcomes about what a general education course will do, and those are on the bottom of page 211. As FERC is revising their outcomes, they've already, part of the conversation was that they would be honoring those outcomes on the bottom of page 211, as well as the discipline categories that are included on page 213 for each of the categories. So there's really been a good conversation back and forth, and there needs to be specific language for the outcomes in all of these categories. There are actually 10 in total, and FERC will work on all of those. But there's already quite a bit of information between the two groups, the existing TAP outcomes and the general education outcomes and discipline subject codes that should give the work groups a good deal of direction. I don't expect there are going to be any surprises in terms of what those outcomes look like. They, as Mike mentioned, they will be simplified outcomes from the ones that currently exist in the TAP Framework 30.
Right. So I understood that there would also be a reduced number of outcomes, right? I think they're currently something like, is it 84? There's a large number of outcomes, and they will be reduced. So if I'm, you know, putting together a program and I want to make sure I've hit all the marks, it is possible, though, that I may need to really reevaluate that program once those outcomes have shifted. I realize that the categories may stay stable, but the outcomes themselves, and this isn't, you know, outcomes-based model, this is how we're supposed to be evaluating programs, it is possible that that will shift significantly in the next year.
Ken or Mike?
Yes, Kalina, oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I will say that could be a challenge. I don't know if it will shift significantly, but I do think that curriculum is, in a sense, is ever shifting. There's always revisions as we've spent much of the morning doing, right? But as Ken said, one of the things I'm pleased with is that there's a lot of alignment between the gen ed, between its outcomes and the Framework 30 outcomes. I think we've learned a lot of lessons as people have taught and assessed to the outcomes in the Framework 30. That was leading to revision already even before the new gen ed. And I think that the timing is really right to align these two so that the gen ed is nested within that Framework 30 and you know, students don't have two different gen eds to try and navigate if they're in a transfer program or a career.
Okay. So I would say this is slightly different from what occurred, you know, earlier in this meeting, because these outcomes really actually specify the meaning of the words on the page, right? They tell you what the content of these courses is actually going to be. These are the definitions. So it is a slightly different thing that I understand. I do have just something else I want to address because I owe it to the FAC. So on page, so this one is about governance, and I know you're all governanced out, but I have to address it. So on page 214, there's a chart, a table, right? And it has a column titled endorsement vote and another column titled date. And there are 12 entries. And that seems wrong given what you say immediately above that table, which is that only 2 colleges participated. It seems that there should be 2 entries and then a note that the rest of the colleges did not participate. And the dates are particularly misleading. And I mean, the table by itself, I think, is, okay, fine, it's not the best way to present the information, but then in the recommendation, I think I printed out like the first version of the agenda, so I have the wrong page. I think it's page 216. At the bottom of page 216, the recommendation is having ensured that the governance process set out by the Students First plan for the development and approval of curriculum for the singly accredited community college was followed, right? And that then, I think, coupled with this misleading table, amounts to a misstatement, because this, I mean, in addition to the, well, I understand that the proposal that moved forward is the proposal that the full committee approved, right? And that's the FERC-like group. But this is supposed to be a CAP model of governance that's being used here. And there is a difference between, you know, a sincere effort to follow that model despite, you know, a failure, and actually following that model. And I think we did not manage to do that here, given that only 2 colleges spoke on this proposal. And the reason I think that that's significant, I mean, first of all, because last week, FAC, well, not last week, 2 weeks ago, FAC was concerned about these votes being understood as participation. And I was very much, my position was I cannot imagine that resolutions of non-participation could ever be understood as participation. But to a certain extent, they're sort of being represented that way here. And the FAC was very concerned that maybe they needed to put a resolution forward, just making sure that that wouldn't happen. Now, I don't think that really needs to be in writing, does it? But that 10 colleges did not participate. And if you look at the resolutions, there's governance on like almost every whereas, and most of the resolves say until a legitimate governance process is in place. So there are 2 things that result from this. I think one's a practical concern and one's a principal concern. If we're moving forward like this represents a sort of deviation from the governance process laid out in the plan. And I think it's worthwhile then to reestablish and make explicit the levels of, you know, the standard of governance that we're going to be expecting for curriculum going forward. And that is related to the practical concern, which is that you're getting this in place so that hundreds of programs can be consolidated and aligned by faculty over the next few months. And it's going to be important that faculty have some level of confidence in the process. It's clear that they don't right now, right? So I think that really needs to be addressed explicitly, and it's not addressed in this document. And I worry that it's going to be a fight, and I don't know that that's, I mean, the preferred style of leadership here. I think there can be other ways that you can make explicit what standard of governance you find acceptable. Does that make sense?
What?
I'd just like to clarify.
Mike, Mike.
I'd just like to clarify the table that Kalina is referring to was what we listed was when we, the table and the results of the endorsement votes. What we were trying to provide was the transparency of what happened when we asked each college for an endorsement vote following their governance procedure. And the dates that are listed are the dates that the resolution was passed. And again, we included the full text of the resolutions to try and be as clear as possible.
And this is Ken, and I would add that this is exactly the kind of information we provided for every single vote, for every single program for the TAP programs. We would include all 12 colleges, including those who refused to vote.
So this has happened before?
Yes, this was the process.
TAP, early I think on, it was one or two colleges
early on in the
times.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Merle, go ahead.
No, continue.
I was just going to say, I think I'm going to say the same thing you were about to say. Early on in the TAP process, there were a number of institutions who also resolved, they had resolutions not to vote on TAP programs, and we would report them in the list of votes the same way that this report does, because we're following the same process here.
Okay. So I guess what's interesting to me is that the majority of the colleges didn't choose to vote. Do you see that as in some way, I mean, representing what would amount to a lack of quorum, undermining the legitimacy of the vote, or no?
This is Ken again.
I think Ken.
I just wanted to say that in 2012, when we started the TAP process, we asked whether there would be a quorum or a minimum level of vote on any of the programs, including the Framework 30, before we forward them to the Board of Regents. And we were asked not to hold any quorum level or any minimum number of approvals, that the information would be passed on to the Board of Regents as the votes rolled out, or whether institutions voted or not. But there was a specific request that we don't have a quorum and we don't have a minimum threshold for the number of approvals.
Okay. So this is the standard of governance right here that is described in the Students First plan then.
I don't know if we have come up with a final standard of governance, have we, Ken?
Well, it's TAP a model, which I guess Ken is explaining. This really is the TAP model.
It is the TAP.
And it has worked this way before also.
Yes, correct. Yes. I mean, it was.
Got it. Okay.
It's, again, people are invited to participate. The faculty is encouraged to participate. It was a choice that they did not participate in the vote.
Okay. So I guess I'll just know.
It was a faculty choice.
I think maybe everybody present already knows this, but I'll just make note that I think that's probably precisely why the reaction has been this way, because what is being expressed is that the TAP model for building the entire curriculum of what will be one of the country's largest community colleges, according to all these governance bodies, is insufficient to the task, right? So it's the TAP model itself, I suppose, that is being opposed to.
What I would say, in looking at what we have come up with and what the board is presented with, is there is still a lot of opportunity for participation, as was pointed out. The courses themselves have not been defined specifically. It's just categories that have been really carefully defined. And these categories, frankly, are not very different from the categories that Nietzsche discussed and that most institutions use. The faculty will certainly have a continuing role in filling in the blanks, both in determining outcomes and the specifics of the curriculum. And the one issue, I think, there are two issues that I would like to point out. One is, I think it's really important when we change the outcomes, and I'm sure this has been anticipated, but in the TAP program, the involvement of the CSU institutions looking at the outcomes, because that's going to ensure the continuation of students being able to transfer those courses. What this does, in addition to what we already had with TAPS, it's going to allow a student to take a course on any campus and have that course being honored by another campus if the student chooses to complete a 2-year degree there, which I think is a real plus for the student.
Sure.
Other questions? Yeah, okay.
I was going to make a comment, but I don't think I think the core is fine. I mean, I was going to make a comment about changing majors and the level of variability between programs in the core, which I think kind of, because I think one of the priorities was students not losing credits, but that opens up the possibility of losing many credits every time you change a major, even in your gen ed. So that is one concern. But it has been.
Yeah, we'll have to watch. We'll have to watch. We'll have to watch that.
Yes, Kalina.
Other questions?
One of the.
Yeah.
This is Mike. One of the principles was that we encourage program coordinators not to designate a specific course within a category unless there was an accreditation or pedagogical reason for that. That was a concept that was brought over that we experienced within the TAP Framework 30 to try and help with that very issue. When program coordinators or when designate courses or when courses are specifically designated, so for instance, when a specific history is designated within the social behavioral sciences, and then students change their major, that can always cause problems. Unfortunately, it occurs now. We also have the added difficulty now of students moving between our colleges where the categories don't even align. But that can always be a problem when students move majors, and we've encouraged the faculty, the program coordinators, to not designate a course unless it's absolutely necessary. Same guiding principle that is in the Framework 30 for the transfer pathways. There are times when those have to be designated because of external accreditation reasons, but the committee did discuss that idea.
Okay. All right. So I'll just say, because I'm here to represent faculty voice, I expect that this will serve as another example of precisely what we're worried about, and that I am quite concerned about the fact that those outcomes are not yet finalized, especially if there's going to be a push for a lot of work to be done in the summer through December, because it does seem that that's going to have to be modified in some way. And again, we have not figured out who's going to do the modification, how it's going to be done, and what level of control faculty will have over it. So, thank you.
Thank you. It's important to think about. Other questions from board members? Well, then yes?
Merle, I just wanted to say something. It's not a real question. I don't understand, or rather I'd like to point out that from the materials, it looks like the working group that came up with the core were representative of the colleges. And I think that should be pointed out.
Mm-hmm. The initial group,
And
right.
The initial group, because all these non-votes were just endorsements that the hard work and the original suggestions and the substance of the thing we're voting on has been a working group and a participatory effort. It wasn't just done by administration. It was representation from each of the colleges.
This is Colina.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
Yep.
by the time the feedback was considered in the last version, that group was down by 6 bodies, if you want to count bodies, and 9 representatives, if you want to count people representing their colleges. So it's slightly different, and it's a larger issue, not specific to the Gen Ed core, why colleges feel so strongly. Part of it is simply that 10 colleges cannot participate in approving the curriculum, and yet it can move forward. I think, that for them is a testament to the fact that while they may participate on paper, they really don't have significant say in the product that is produced, because what is approved is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be, right? There's no need for a certain amount of participation by colleges, and endorsement, there's no threshold of endorsement to make sure that it goes forward. So in principle, it could be anything. And it's great that CCIC honored what that original work group did. SFA, SCCC did not that they do that. So, it's still in flux, the actual weight of faculty recommendation.
This is Mike. I'd just like to clarify that the proposal that everyone sees is exactly the proposal that was sent out for endorsement. And that proposal was approved by the full committee in November with a vote of 14-2. To Regent Budd's point, that was a representative committee with members from each college, and that is the proposal that has been basically adjusted and then corrected back. So the one you're looking at was the proposal that was developed by the full committee.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to vote on the motion to bring this forward to the board at our next meeting? Okay. Yes. Hearing no one saying no, I will ask call vote on approving the general education core. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Howie?
Aye. Yes, I said aye.
Howie. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All opposed? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will have a discussion, I'm sure another full discussion at the board meeting. There are just a few items left, and I don't think they'll be that difficult. The next item is item J on page 234, the appointment of a CSU professor, Dr. Elliot Horch from Southern Connecticut State University. And as you know, this is in the contract, we have up to 12 CSU professors, and this is a Southern appointment. Dr. Horch has a wonderful resume, as you can read in the materials that were sent to us, and he's deserving of, I believe, appointment as a CSU professor. Dr. Gates, is there anything you want to add at this point?
No, other than just to say upon the recommendation of the president, Dr. Gilberto Lino, and the terms set forth in the BOR AAUP collective bargaining agreement, the professor has stellar credentials and clearly meets all 3 categories of excellence.
Right.
So
okay,
moved, Madam
could I have a, okay, I have a motion. Could I have a second? Anyone opposed?
Second, this is Holly.
Oh, Holly, okay. I'm sorry, I'm going crazy here. All in favor of the motion on page 234?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you. The next item is also a contractual item. In the contract, we provide funding for faculty research grants, and the resolution is on page 239. The lists are in subsequent documents, and we had available this year about just over $1 million, and this funds just under $1 million in 259 grants. Outstanding, it shows our outstanding faculty, and the submissions are interesting, and these were vetted at the campus level. So I first will take a motion.
Naomi, so moved.
Second, Holly.
Second. Okay, and anyone, either Dr. Gates or Dr. Klusnick, do you want to add anything?
I would defer to Dr. Klusnick for additional comments if desired.
Thank you, Provost Gates, and it's really only going to be a sentence. I think I just want to say publicly that an enormous amount of work goes into making these decisions. There are committees formed on each of the campuses, and there's a leader on each campus who facilitates all of the work that has to happen so that all of these proposals get judged, and I would just like to publicly thank them for all their hard work.
Thank you.
Naomi.
Yes.
It's always too bad that we get to this when we don't have the luxury of time to talk about some of this. I think it would be interesting at some point for the system to, publish a synopsis of what the faculty some of the faculty research grants that have been awarded over you pick it, 3 years, 5 years, and what the results have been. Because it's really amazing work.
I agree, and I think that we need to find a better way of honoring the faculty, both these research grants and the faculty awards that we approved last time. So we need to think about that both to do something online or to do something preferably even in some kind of a reception that we could all get together. Okay, I have the motion before us then. Could I have a vote on the motion to approve the faculty research grants? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. The last item, which is an important one to us, it is another change in a community college existing policy about incompletes. And the actual motion is on page 258. Could I have someone make that motion? I mean, the resolution, move the resolution?
Sure, it's Naomi.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. And this basically, well, I won't even try to explain it. It's pretty simple, but Dr. Klusnick?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it is pretty simple. The board policy says that most of the work in a course must be complete in order to grant an incomplete. There are a number of courses, and this is especially true of courses with internships or clinicals, where the student has been able to complete all of the online and all of the things that we could continue to provide being remote, but will have to complete the clinical work or the off-site work or the on-site lab work in order to be able to complete the course. And sometimes that clinical work amounts to enough of the course where it might not meet the board definition of most of the work having been completed. So this is an opportunity for the chief academic officers on the campuses to have some flexibility with those programs and students in those programs so that they may return to those clinicals either in August if we can get back on ground, or arrange them however they can so that those students can indeed complete those courses.
Thank you. Questions, anyone? Okay, a vote on the motion to approve the change. And again, this is not a permanent change. This is just given this situation we're in now. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you, everyone. You have a bunch of information items. These are necessary so we can transmit these to the Office of Higher Education. And I would like a motion to adjourn. I so move, Aviva. Okay. And I want to thank everyone. I know it was a long meeting, and it is even more difficult doing it online than in person. So I personally appreciate everyone's patience with this. So vote, everyone in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you very much. We hope that we can do this in person before too long. And we'll be on the phone again shortly. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.